Welcome into the Paladins Premier League, everybody. I'm Aggro, joined by Pretty here on the desk. Nick, it's the final day of Phase 1 regular season. Can you believe it?
We're Dawn of the final day, man. It's been a long split, but it's flown by because it's been so competitive, so much fun to watch every single week, right up until the bittersweet end.
That's right. The very final day is still jam-packed with seeding implications and all that kind of good stuff, but we're starting it off with just a phenomenal set in NIP versus Na'Vi. NIP has really been dominating for all the 13 weeks that we've seen in the Paladins Premier League. But Na'Vi's a team that could certainly challenge.
And the best part about this matchup is because it highlights and accentuates to the best of their ability the two real rivaling styles of Paladins. Na'Vi is the most objective-focused, will win the game, everyone's negative, but they got it done on the payload at the end of the day. NIP, hard opposite. In-your-face aggression, they're going to come straight at you, win or lose, for better or worse, and they're going to spawn camp you if possible. Yeah,
you say win or lose, but they're not doing a whole lot of the latter. Only one loss so far here in this phase, and Na'Vi has not been the team to give it to them, but this is a team that hearing NIP talk and that kind of stuff, they definitely have a lot of respect for this squad.
Absolutely. This is a long-time kind of rival of theirs, hailing mostly from the European region for the most part. They look, like they have those 4 losses on the schedule, yes, but they have 2 weeks where they had to play with a sub or a manager or some kind of, roster travel issue, right? That doesn't happen. Those losses probably don't happen if we're being realistic. So this is a very, very close matchup in terms of what everyone thinks about it, how everyone's sort of respecting both of these teams going into it.
And with this being the final day of the PPL and going towards Mid-Season Invitational, this is a big momentum game potentially, especially for Na'Vi, but I think for NIP as well, to beat the team that would probably be the second in command of the PPL without those extenuating circumstances, as you mentioned. That can be a confidence builder even for a 12-1 team.
I think so as well. Both of these squads have a lot to prove, and it's almost like who is the true big dog going into the MSI. Everyone is looking at NIP. They are going to be locked in for that first seed, but there's so much, I think, to be decided here because they haven't been quite as hot as they were. When they came out of the gate, they were literally just obliterating people, and I'm telling you, spawn camping to that point. Like, it was really, really kind of something to watch just how far ahead they were. They are still good. They are still ahead of the pack, but it is a much more narrow margin than it was in the earlier onset of the split.
Well, Na'Vi got some momentum yesterday by taking down a Space Station gaming team who really gave them a run for their money, but Phoenix and Mutu yesterday both had great days, particularly Phoenix, who got one game on Makoa, one game on Atlas, and absolutely decimated SSG for it.
Right. There was we started to hypothesize a strategy around lulling Natus Vincere into these power picks and building a strategy around it. Predictability, it can be a weakness and is a weakness at the end of the day, but Mutu vocally not super happy with his performance. I personally didn't feel that. I thought everything was good or great, and this was one of those performances. Cassie on Ascension Peak was great.
That was huge. That was game 7 of this set as well, so you knew it was down to the wire here, and that's when you want your big guys to step up and have their best games, and Mutu certainly did step up in this one. The kill that he had on Ares coming around the corner in particular towards the final cap point certainly stands out to me. But this Na'Vi squad is one that you can tell has that potential, and as you highlighted, the varying style up against NIP, with NIP maybe not looking quite as dominant as they did towards the beginning of the year, maybe this control point style, the meta is pretty heavily around these point tanks. Maybe that can favor Na'Vi.
There's been a couple of things, change, a couple of balance adjustments, of course, over the course of the phase. Nothing too, drastic that's swinging things super hard in direction. One of the biggest things that really helped NIP was the injection of Amani and Atlas, who were both very strong when they came out, but not necessarily in the case of Amani anymore.
No, not seeing a whole lot of Amani yesterday, but Atlas certainly on the table. In fact, one man got it yesterday. It was Phoenix. I don't know if he'll get it today, but I do know he's standing by for an interview right now.
Appreciate it, guys. Down here in the Na'Vi booth with none other than Phoenix. And Phoenix, now this is the last day of the split. Last time you guys played NIP, they came out on top 4-2. Do you think, both teams have sort of changed since then? Do you think you guys have a better shot today?
I think the competition overall has been closer between all the teams. Later on the season you play each other more, you learn from each other. And I think overall it's closer. Last day, we're just going to have fun.
Now, this is an interesting question. We talked to Spunky a few weeks ago, and looking at this week, you guys had SSG yesterday and then NIP today. Would you say that, or he said that you guys were a little more comfortable against NIP than SSG? Do you feel that way as well?
I mean, you have to be comfortable against everyone. You have to be confident no matter what. And yes, NIP might be on the top, but we're still confident against them. And we know that we can be a top dog, so we're confident against everyone.
What do you have to focus on today to beat Ninjas in Pyjamas?
All 5 of them. It's a team game.
Well, I appreciate it. Good luck to you guys. Send it back to the desk and get this match moving.
You can tell Phoenix is locked in and ready to go for this matchup. I mean, he's right. You got to be confident against everybody, but I do think that usually, at least in Smite, where I kind of hail from, the top teams usually scrim against each other a lot. They're trying to really raise their bar individually, and that can usually lead to some pretty close games, even with the second seed taking down the 1 at times.
Yeah, and they are comfortable with each other because, like I said, these are both teams traditionally hailing from the European region. Before we kind of threw everybody in the same pool,
sure,
they were those top 2 teams. They were the 1 and 2 for just so long in Europe. NIP actually kind of was that 3 team in Europe, if we're being realistic, but they made a lot of great adjustments to get them where they're at this season in particular. These guys go way back. Spunky and Bird won that first World Championship. Bonker as well, grabbing that MVP at that event. So there is a lot of history into this matchup.
Definitely, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, especially to see if NIP can keep the ball rolling, basically, and get into the Mid-Season Invitational with only 1 loss. And when you get to this point and you only have 1 loss, it's got to be everybody doing it. But Alex, as one of the DPS players, certainly has been impressive.
He certainly has, and my favorite thing about Alex is really just the story about how he got here. One of the minor league players, just kind of hot for a while, right? Kind of doing his thing there and really standing out. Gets to LAN, has still pretty good performances there. Gets on a PPL team, a lower seeded PPL team. Doesn't really have the best showing on that squad, but still gets believed in by NIP. This was a last-second decision to put this guy on this roster for this phase. They believed in him despite, the record in the PPL that he had. They believed in his talent, his ability to grind and to stay focused and to want to improve with the team. You get that hungry young gun, right?
Yep.
That's kind of how I think about Alex. And I think he's been really great for this squad because he has practiced and learned so many characters. He's a hit scan guy for this squad, but he will also step up and play the Eevee when necessary.
Speaking of hungry, it looks like all these animals that NIP are wearing on their heads are pretty hungry. It was a shark for Alex, now a squid for Diggy Dog. But regardless of their headwear, you got to take NIP seriously. And Diggy Dog, I mean, as you mentioned, it's mostly a European squad for this side. Wow, what a
Where do you
squad.
even get these?
I mean, you have to order them online,
Where can
right?
that cop?
Yeah, let me in on that. That's a good look. A new summer style, so to speak, here for NIP. But look, if they're winning, if they're playing the way they played, let them wear whatever they want.
Yeah. So great. As good as a story as Alex is, Diggy Dog's path to where he is now is also one that I personally love. I have a soft spot for Diggy Dog. He comes from Kanga, from down under. He made a huge life decision to move to Sweden, move in with Bird, so that he could just play this game more competitively. He wanted to play in the European League. NIP brought him up. Now he's really moved to that off-tank role. Played DPS originally for them, and he said this has been the hardest role to play this season.
Yeah.
You've seen it in the draft.
Sure.
Most of the time, 3, 4 of these off-tanks are getting banned, so your champion pool has to literally include every single off-tank in the game.
That's it's tough to do, but Diggy Dog has certainly stepped up and done it well. Basically, all of NIP has stepped up and done it well. We got a chance to sit down and talk to Bittner a little bit earlier on. Let's hear what his thoughts are going up against Navi.
Well, it all starts in draft. It depends on what draft you have. So if we have a point tank against Lazy, maybe we go for the first one where we attack Lazy the most, or maybe if you have an aggressive comp, we will go for the rest. I mean, it's weird because in Navi they don't really have specific blasters or specific hit scans. Meanwhile in Virtus Pro they have Fish and they have Ekati, which are blast and hit scan. Creatives plays the Eevee and Muti plays the Drogos. Like, it's hard to say. Meanwhile I play the off supports and the hit scans for NIP, so it's hard. Yeah, I mean Navi and us, we know each other super well, so we know what we want to do, and then it's easier to play against it. So I think that's where it comes from.
Now there's just a few low members of the Knights to clean up here if you're on the side of NIP. Be careful, Bittner. You might die as well.
Easy.
He's feeling confident. He's going to get in the face of the Cassie, get in the face of the Dome Shield. Being smart, backing himself out. He realizes he can't compete.
That's on a game by game and a draft by draft. It really depends on what's picked and banned before you can determine what's good and what's not.
The boys of NIP looking to close out their first phase pretty strong. And look, if you're sitting at 12-1, there's no reason to feel anything but confident.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a squad that is fun to watch for the particular reason that Tenor's flexibility, he is that wild card, oftentimes getting a later pick in the draft. Sometimes if it comes to that, you can power pick elsewhere, but the depth of his champion pool really, really allows him to excel.
Frozen Guard is the first selection here in map 1. There's a map, did we see it at all yesterday?
Borders Gate? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was quite a bit yesterday that we saw. 20 of 21 games, and this map still did not come up. So interesting that I guess NIP, is that their choice here?
I believe so.
Map?
They're going to be first pick as well. They get rid of the EV. This matchup in particular, I'm curious to see what they end up focusing on, because I will say 2 characters that are a little bit on the upswing. Last week was Tyra Vivia. We talked a good bit about that yesterday, associated with SSG. That's something Nip plays, but I don't know that they're starving to get after those 2 characters. So I really want to see what they prioritize today. I thought Leon was really, really good yesterday. Both Tenor and Alex can play that character. So there's potential for that to come through, being such a flexible pick for both of the DPS players for NIP.
So Navi has the choice to make. Torvald's still open and Atlas still open. They can ban one of those, whatever one they're more scared of. They can leave both open, try and get one for themselves. Could go with something like a Tyra ban potentially, and just try and get some frontline.
I think at this point, if you leave both open, whatever you end up taking, you get your Khan, you get your Torvald,
right?
you get Khan Atlas, you get you pick 2 sort of situation.
Is it a problem because Atlas and Khan are both the off tanks, right? They're not necessarily point tanks. So is it a problem to double down on those and not get a traditional point?
I think it could be, and that might be part of the core behind what's happening right now in the draft for NIP. They know Navi love their point tanks and are not afraid to grab both Barrack and Inara if it comes to that. But the big thing here is NIP maybe feeling them out a little bit today, saying, what will they pick?
Sure. It is Torvald that NIP decided to go with that first selection. Love their point tanks potentially, and this one certainly can get the job done. It is worth noting, I think, that Frozen Guard was selected by NIP last time these 2 played. That was a 4-2 NIP victory, but Navi got the map. So this is one that I think NIP might be looking for some revenge on, as Navi go Khan Cassie. Don't need to pick your point tank now. NIP likely already have theirs. Just a matter of what NIP want as their off-tank selection. Where do you think they go with that? There's not a whole lot of top-tier ones left, at least from what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, they have the potential to go for something like a Barrack Genos here, but hovering the Maldamba already shows they probably want to stay away from the Barrack in that, right? I'm already kind of, my gears are spinning thinking about what they want to pair with this Torvald, and it's kind of an interesting choice because Torvald in that off-tank role, you see certain teams, namely ones like SSG, and to some extent NIP, it's like you almost have to let your off-tank who's used to just like go, 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 crush, crush, crush in the back line, kind of have to take a more backseat role. Torvald is closer to a support than he really is a frontline at the end of the day. He's really just sitting back and being bubble boy.
Beefy healer, basically, is the way that you should be thinking about Torvald a lot of the time. So they go Barrack Maldamba, not the Barrack Genos, so don't have that damage amp necessarily, but there are still some picks that you can get to amp that Barrack damage. Tyra maybe would get the mark, and maybe use that as your damage amp instead of the Genos, while still providing that big healing throughput that something like Maldamba can provide to 2 point tanks.
So staying away from the Genos entirely on this map. Monkey will go back to the Ying. Both these supports, like I said, extremely veteran, used to play together actually on the same squad. And it's a Willow. Now, this is so interesting. This is something that has... Oh, okay, it's going to be Strix. But Torvald Willow is very funny, actually. It was something that NIP actually used when they were in that 3rd spot to really just obliterate Navi. So I don't know if that was just planting a seed in Navi to really start to mentally mess with them. Strix, incredible pick for Tenor. Xin, pretty nerfed, I will say. This pretty much in the middle of the split, but it's something that Alex plays very well. Torvald covers the weaknesses of flanks, and I think he will cover the nerf. Alex is an incredible Xin player and can absolutely play around the nerf.
Shaolin here for Navi rounds out their draft, needing some more damage, but Shaolin Cassie is plenty of damage. It's good long-range poke as well. Do you think this Jhin will have trouble even with the bubble getting past these bow characters?
This is, it's interesting because of that, right? It's going to come down to Tenor poking somebody to the point where they need to hide.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, I think, for NIP, but they've done it pretty well so far. Let's get it started. Casters for game 1. It's Gormizer and our own Zion Williamson clone, Dave Olsen. That's right. I was going to say, I totally forgot. That's a great thing to continue the day. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, I am I'm Dolson, and alongside me for set number 1 is Gore Miser. It's 1 versus 2, Gore. I'm excited about this one. No better way to start off the final day of the split. And they're two teams that have found so much success, but almost in different forms, where NIP is that like hyper aggression, and Na'Vi just love to sit back, control, and then if they win the fight, they already got 90% on the points, so you better be ready to counter back. Who do you got in this one, Gore?
Honestly, it might seem odd. I'm leaning towards Na'Vi.
I think some of us were. We were kind of split.
Xin, this is one where NIP are really good, but I think Na'Vi have kind of figured them out at this point, right? That's the biggest thing. You're going into MSI, and Na'Vi have been stepping up to the plate a lot more against NIP, I think, than what we saw. The last time this went through, it was a 4-2 overall for NIP. But this map also went Na'Vi's way when they did it. NIP like pick and frozen guard, but they don't always win. But it's kind of hard to argue against Torvald Zen in like literally any world, especially when Alex is one of those players and the other one's Diggy. It's hard to see someone coming out victorious on that, but I think they have what they need on the side of Na'Vi to do it.
Well, this is the matchup. The entire split since they played, it was week 5 or 6, I think they played. And since then, Na'Vi have stood, or NIP, I should say, have stood by it. They said Na'Vi was the hardest team we played against. It was a 4-2, but still the hardest team we played against. Both teams are going to be feeling confident today, but I think this will be a close matchup. Oh, that's a headshot to start off the game, and it's on to Spunky. Bittner already uses the sniper for one, the pistol for the other, and he has 2, but that's a quick answer back from Na'Vi.
And just being able to find 2 right there, being able to follow up the kill onto the Ying immediately with the Cassie, and then just seeing the solid stuns that are coming out. Yes, you lose Bittner, and actually losing your front line there in the barrack is going to cause a little bit more pressure coming out onto the point, I think, than they're going to be comfortable with. And that's what Na'Vi have been able to do so strong. And I mean, it's 70%. You can't argue against that.
And that's what I kind of pointed out going into it. You're going to be fighting against Na'Vi, who will be on the point. They're going to throw Lazy on that Inara on the point, and they're going to garner so much going into it. So you need to win early, and then you need to counter push them out of it. And that hasn't happened up to this point. Overtime already ticking away. Bittner's the one who's in range maybe for a contest here. Some stuns from Bird on the opposite side have been good up to this point. Overtime, they're ticking away. Natus Vincere, they have some room to play with, so they could back off. And what you are seeing is a little bit of checkerboard back and forth. Alex on this Xin, that's something you have to look for in this game. That's a good ultimate as well. Takes down 1, but we're going back and forth here, but NIP, they seem to have stabilized.
And I think very important to note is what you just said. Alex is someone to look to in this game. That first fight, it was all Bittner, and Alex was pretty much nowhere. Like, he was able to apply some damage, but it wasn't impactful. This time around, he's able to come in, even if he's not getting all the kills, he assisted in every single one of the ones that just happened, and that's where that pressure has to change. That's where that format has to change, for NIP. Alex has to go big, and honestly, with Torvald, they have to do it fast, because otherwise, that's going to happen a lot more often.
True. I mean, you see a complete reversal, 99-99. We're already starting off contested here. If you're NIP, you're sad, though, because you've already lost 2 in this mid-fight that it could come down to. Bonker's doing the best that he can to stay alive. That's a good Dread Serpent in onto the point, but there's nobody left from NIP. First point goes the way of Na'Vi.
And this is the true downside to picking Torvald, right? You are all in on making sure your DPS deal damage.
Yep.
But there's no DPS there in that fight. Right. You lose both Bittner and Alex very early on. Then you're hoping that your double frontline is going to be good enough, but you don't have something like the Khan. You don't have someone who's aggressive. Torvald has to sit back. He's not cowardly, but like it's just in that zone where it's like, I'm not going to deal enough damage. Like, my silence is good, but like, I don't want to be over there. I'm a bubble machine. That's all I am for this game. But the minute you lose Bonker, Diggy is almost non-existent compared to his normal impact.
That was a good couple picks to start things off. Illusory Rift for Natus Vincere, maybe signaling an engage here from them. Just some poke on the opposite side, maybe mitigating a little bit of that. A toss over the head of Khan. Goes Alex in this case, but the follow-up damage just not quite. A dash out is going to get him to safety, but he is in behind Natus Vincere right now. They have to be careful that he doesn't bring a big flank in, but that's a big double kill from Bittner. Twice now we've seen him with the snipe to start it off, a pistol to follow up for the second here. But this is moving forward for Natus Vincere. This is an important stop on the side of NIP.
I would love to live in a world where it'd be possible to just drop Bittner Strix into various team fights.
Yeah.
Like any contested team fight over the last like 4 weeks. Just be like, I wonder what Bittner Strix could do in this scenario, just to see it, because it's ridiculous to me how often he's getting these consistent headshots off of quick scopes, essentially. and following it up with 1, 2, and then almost 3 kills. Like, he's getting about 2.5 every single time.
He's on
and
top.
He's the top damage because of it.
It's interesting. This is where you would expect him to be playing, whereas he got his double kill at the payload last time around.
You used this term yesterday. He's barrel stuffing people with the sniper. Like, he's just getting in there to make sure they know.
Why not? They do know. I mean, he'll trade out 2 for 1 7 days out of the week. His payload is inching forward here with about 30 seconds left. Natus Vincere with point number 1 in game number 1. Both of these two teams best at what they do. Alex is going to open up this one. This may indicate that Natus Vincere need to back off and regroup, and things are going to slow down here. This is sort of the archway where things kind of break one way or another, because once the gates are flooded, you're jumping down on the defensive end into basically an entire team fight, but they have a definite height advantage prior to this bridge. So that's really where you look for things to change. With Mutu going down, things get tough.
And with Yomi Zen, with a Strix that's going to be sitting here, like, you have the distinct range advantage on the side of it. Like, it's difficult to get back to that payload if you lose momentum on Na'Vi without taking half of your health bar, if not more. Like you said, Mutu fell down. You saw both the front lines, the Inara and the Khan, even with a healer behind him, were half health in that scenario. Like, you just don't get to walk up to them. They don't let you do it.
And look at this is what we were mentioning. Bittner is
just right
at
up
the
in
payload.
there.
He's right there, and why not? I mean, granted, that's probably Natus Vincere coming back at him. Maybe didn't expect it as soon as it was, but he made good. And this is the beautiful headshot, the bubble. No other damage, 0 other damage onto Spunky. That is only a bubble headshot onto the healer of Natus Vincere. And it's a clean kill. It's a clean 100-0 kill. He's at 50,000 damage. Top 3 damage dealers in this game are on NIP. They were granted they were on defense, absorbing a good bit of pressure, but some early ultimates. This is where they'll start coming out. That's a good double stun, but no follow-up damage. Just buys them a little bit of space on the backside. Natus Vincere controlling this entire left side thanks to the presence of Phoenix right now. No kills, but Creatives opens things up. 1 onto Bonkers, all we have so far. The rest of NIP have to back off a little bit. Creatives is starting to hit his shots, and that's a dangerous thing to go up against. The Hyper Beam comes through, little utility, pushes them back, but no kills on the back end of it.
I mean, so far, the biggest thing that is glaring, as I want to say as an issue, again, is just going to come down to the fact that you're kind of running solo point-take Barry. Like, your Torvald is playing Watchful Protector for your DPS. I can silence if anyone comes over here. It's Batman without the other half of Batman, right? Like, he's the Watchful Protector, but not the I'm going to beat up the criminals.
Right.
Like, he's just like, I will let you know if there is danger, and I will keep you safe a little bit.
Ooh, that's a decent Dread Serpent, actually, but there's so many dead members. The damage, the follow-up is dead on the side of NIP. Alex is the last one, and he has to get up there and get dangerous. Has to billow out, keep himself alive. This is a champion that he likes to play, is very good on it despite the recent nerfs to it. Staying alive here, that's an overpower. That's going to find a little bit of value. That does hit onto Bonker on the backside. Alex is now the one that's left. The respawns from NIP are going to be coming through. Bittner back alive in the backside. He's doing a lot of damage. Alex gets out. The shielding is enough to keep him alive, but 99% is where we stand for Natus Vincere. NIP need to answer back.
They need a couple more shots in that scenario, and that's the biggest thing, is Alex is getting a lot of good damage, but it's getting healed off, and that's, I think, the biggest downside, is no one's dealing with the Ying. You haven't been able to see Bittner get around, get to the back line, deal with her the way he did early on last time. But the good news is even though it's 99% there for Na'Vi, they're in control and admittedly look like they're about to win this fight. If Na'Vi are the ones in control. If NIP can pick up a couple kills, specifically onto the Khan, as we saw them kind of engaging there at the last minute, push off that Inara, they're at 43, 50% right now. So, like, they can capture this point with a zone the way they tried to last round. They got to 99-99. This time they could 100% get it just because they have that little lead.
And it's been interesting watching the way Bittner's been positioning in some of these mid-fights, because to start off, remember, right when the game started, he was holding that sort of right-hand wall from his spawn, and that's where he was able to bounce out and find a double kill. But then the last few clips that we've seen of him, he was just kind of storming the gates from the steps really with the rest of his team. So not necessarily good or bad positioning, but just finding different angles, I should say. And he's not afraid to get up in the face of somebody with the sniper rifle. And, you know, it's paid off sort of in dividends here and there. But as you said, Na'Vi, they're one tick away on the point right now from capturing point number 2.
And this is that area, and honestly, this is how I think I feel about Frozen Guard right now, whereas NIP, like, they love choosing this map, and it's a lot of control.
Right.
I honestly, in my mind, it feels like it's a map that has almost always favored Na'Vi, just historically. This is a map that I feel like I've seen them win on a ton. And so it's one that it's a little awkward to me to choose it first to try and get your leg forward. But
I
at the
agree.
same time, if there's any map that you choose, which this is one of the ones they choose the most, that you're going to be like shaky on, I'd put it first instead of last.
Well, it's interesting as well, if you look at the drafts that we've had, normally giving Torvald to NIP over the past few weeks has just been, I know, I can't get over the hats. That's amazing.
It's like a permanent kraken on his head.
They, I guess it was last weekend, the team all went out to the aquarium, bought a couple souvenirs for themselves, and are sporting them today for the last game of the split. Why not?
Now the biggest question actually is going to...
He left the tag on.
I was going to say, he still's got
It was hanging on the rack
That's
still.
Bird is the kind of guy who gets pressured into this more than the kind of guy who... Like,
I
think he goes along with it with his team, but like... he didn't come up with the idea. Like, the tag's still there because he probably didn't want to. But I also look at this as like, how long do you think, depending on how this game goes, depending on how game 2 goes, like,
how long do they stay on?
How long do they stay on, and like which ones come off first? Like, I feel like Bird and Alex will be first.
Yeah.
Then you'll probably see like Diggy. Then the last one's gonna be Bonker. Like, that's I think Bonker would keep that mana ray off.
I think the entire day. That could be a good bet. A couple technical difficulties on the back end. We're going to sort those out and get back into the game as soon as possible. This is interesting, though, Gore. If we're going to have to remake this game, so we'll do that really quick, dive back in. Luckily, only a couple of points on the board.
Yeah.
So not Ice Mines round 2. This won't be a full 8-game set if it ends up going the distance. But at initial glance, where we were at, I was sort of interested to see that NIP were the ones who are capturing, and Na'Vi Na'Vi are the ones who are capturing, and NIP are the ones who are playing defense, at least initially, and it kind of looks that way where we stand in the game, whereas I would expect a very defensive game from Na'Vi and NIP attacking. Hasn't really played out that way up to this point.
No, I honestly
remake. We're
expected
good.
to be able to see a little more. Come out of the pause, into the pause. Bittner doesn't want it to get it going. But those strikes, like where Zen is right now, is, again, that's my mindset. Zen, I think the Bill nerfs, like, a lot of nerfs in this game, and like this, people are going to feel called out by this, and they should, but it's because a lot of them are like when you touch a hot stove, right? And you yank back. You're like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like, you can't do it anymore. Right. And I feel like that's kind of where Zen was, is it was a big nerf.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's warranted to never pick him again. I think this is a good scenario for it, but Alex hasn't backed that up fully yet.
Right. Well, a couple technical difficulties on the back end. We're going to throw it to the desk really quick, hear what they're thinking so far, and then we'll get right back into it.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, Game 1 will have to be a remake, but luckily not too deep into it. It's still fairly early on. But what have you seen from this composition so far? I mean, this Torvald shield has really caused problems, whether it's on Strix or the Jhin.
It's a big emphasis on the execution of Diggy Dog to be able to make those split-second decisions. The idea here is obviously Tenor with those 1,200 Talon rifle shots. Those scale the hardest.
Seems
with the
good.
30% amp. It's pretty good. Like you saw that 2,100 quick just deletion of the enemy support. That's awesome. That type of stuff is great. But it's also like you need to pay attention to Alex in some respects, or else he is just going to kind of flounder and really struggle to get anything done. He's outranged drastically by Shaolin and Cassie.
Sure.
Both those characters have the build to be able to blow the character like Zen up very, very quickly. So Diggy Dog has a lot on him. A lot of people just kind of like Torvald Eevee or Torvald X, Y, or Z, but it's really like two things Diggy has to worry about and cover.
It's tough for him, but he's certainly made it work so far. Again, just to reiterate, the same picks are going to be in the game. It's just we have to remake and start over from minute 1, basically, with these guys. But despite the success, I think, of this Torvald selection so far for Diggy Dog, don't forget, Navi's the one who got the first point.
Yeah.
So they've shown that they can still do the Na'Vi style, right? Which is take some hits on the chin and stand on the point and get the job done.
Both these teams have a lot of resilience. I have to say, that was a pretty long second round mid-fight as well, and I'm still not really sure which way that was going to go. There was a lot of ultimates used on either side. We saw Alex was literally whirling in to try and get the kill onto Phoenix right as the game was paused, and we kind of encountered those issues. And it's just such an interesting and different style of Frozen Guard. This is one, like, I was talking to Kresnik in the green room about, like, we used to see snipers kind of almost like we did on Frog Isle or Timbermill, where it was like you had to kind of have a conversation about those characters.
Right.
it really kind of closed down. There was honestly a lot more flankers, your Maves, your Zins, mid-range stuff at most, to the point where you're seeing compositions on Frozen Guard drafted where you're like, I don't know if these guys are going to be able to push payloads. They might have just drafted a team fight to just win mid-fights every single time. They don't have the range to reach an enemy base from where they have to kind of breach. It's like, it was a very interesting time. So to see something so polar opposite in this game is very, very cool.
I mean, is Frozen Guard one of those maps where you really do just have to worry about the mid-fight because it's so difficult to finalize that payload push?
Really, no. I mean, Ice Mines is the closest thing we have to something like that.
Right.
But you kind of see on that offense where Tenor's posted up, it's like once you lose the mid-fight, you sort of fight under that little overpass, and then you fall all the way back to your base. There's really just 2 spots that you look to fight from, and it's a long line of sight from that overpass to the enemy base.
Sure.
So when you draft stuff, like your Zins and your Maves, you're just not reliable from that distance. Cassie and Shaolin are good, but Strix is definitely going to outrange them. They have they're very, very polar, right? If Strix is at his long line of sight, he's going to be goody. If Alex can get up close, he's going to be good. But in that mid-range, that's where Navi's going to win those fights.
Yeah, but I mean, NIP has done a fairly good job, at least on the defense so far, of during that overpass sort of push. That's where Alex is really doing a lot of the work, right? And Tenor sitting back on the Strix and hitting those long-range shots. And then once it gets in the wide open area, Alex has to take a little bit of a step back, and Tenor steps up. I mean, when a team is moving like this, where you're right, they do have one end covered and the other end covered, but the middle ground looks a little gray. NIP's been able to kind of fudge that a little bit and be able to work through it anyways.
Right. A big thing that also has to be really good, and the communication specifically between Tenor and between Diggy, is that this bubble only lasts for 3 seconds, which is about enough time to get 2 shots, and maybe 3 if you're absolutely frame perfect. So you need to kind of line these bubbles up very well with when Tenor... Diggy has to sort of watch his teammates and realize when they're trying to peek and hit that bubble perfectly.
Unbelievable, man. It's a lot of high execution stuff, but we're ready to get back into it. Let's throw it back to Gore and Dolson for game 1.
Appreciate it, fellas. Thanks, guys, for sticking around. We are going to jump back into game number 1 here. Like they said, luckily not too far into it, but we got to see a little bit of maybe how some of these interactions are going to go. I'm very excited to see the full one because already you can see how close this is going to be.
Well, this is actually something I think is interesting compared to last week, right, where you're already a decent chunk into the game when a remake happens.
It's almost over.
There weren't many strategies that were outlandish. It's oh, this is something they're trying that's specific to this round.
Right.
Navi played from the point. Big surprise. Ninjas in Pyjamas focused on the Torvald bubble. Big surprise. It's a lot of things that, admittedly, this is just going to come down to mechanics and how well,
at the end of the day, this is the same as what we saw last time. Spunky is actually in the same spot that he got doubled out before, playing a little bit safer this time, but God, Phoenix is eating so much damage. This is all coming out of Bittner, maybe some Torvald shots from in the back end, but now there's 3 members of Navi that are going to call him on it. Torvald trying to fill up the bubble. Alex comes in, he helps out. The bubbles from Diggy Dog, that keeps Bittner alive, and the kills are starting to roll. This is different from the first time around. NIP, that's a clean 5, and they're on the point.
Honestly, this is going to showcase something, and this is going to be, I think, unfortunate for Navi, but something that was going to happen anyway. It was a ticking time bomb, and that is that Alex got into the flow.
Yep.
Zin is a champion that plays different than the Cassie that he's been put on. He plays different than an Eevee you get put on. You have to be in Zin's mindset. And the first round of playing Zin after, I guess last week he played it, but weeks of not touching him, you're not going to know exactly how to get back into that mindset. Now, he's a little warmed up. He's a little fresh. He knows the cooldown rotation.
And what I kind of went on a little soapbox ramble, but what the grand scheme of things is, this is what I expected to see at the beginning of the last game. That's a good flashbang. There could be some Fonvo up, and it is going to be onto Spunky. So Natus Vincere, Bittner tearing through. The ultimate helps. Couple shots as well. That gets him a double, and this payload's already moving forward. And this is the dangerous part. If you're defending and the attacking team is already in your base, it's pretty scary. Another pause coming through. It's the SeaWorld hats. I think it's the bad luck of the hats.
No, I was actually going to say the good luck of the hats. I think we might need to check to make sure there's not a computer that's plugged into the back of Bittner's head that's aiming for him and firing, because he's hitting so many amazing shots, although it was him who threw up his hands there at the very end, so something happened on his side.
If we turn back the pages a little bit, this is kind of a one-off, but the last time they were playing on this map, I believe, was against the Renegades. And you talking about Bittner kind of throwing up his hands reminded me of this. He had a quadra kill that was stolen away by Bird the last time we were playing here, and just the the slow turn off to the side. They ended up winning, but the big takeaway was actually the next game, I think, they stole another pentakill from him, and he showed a similar frustration as to what we just saw in this one. But already, I mean, again, it's hard to break down too much when the pauses keep coming through, but this is a much different start from this is the NIP I think I expected to see at the beginning of the last start.
And again, it's not like they knew what strat to expect,
right.
Because again, these two teams have played the exact way you would play this coming into it with this draft. What they've done is gotten a little more comfortable on the champions they're playing and recognize that they have to, I guess that fresh reminder, you have to out-pressure Na'Vi. Na'Vi will just sit on the point as long as you let them until you push them off. Lazy will not leave. His feet are, I think, contractually obligated to be on the point.
They're not allowed to move.
Until he leaves. So it's really, really big to apply that pressure and immediately knock him back.
Well, they didn't let him even touch toes on the point this time around. 0 to 100 is where that first point spawned out. Out of the pause, we come in. This payload's still moving forward on the back end of some good kills. It looked like NIP were going to be able to set up camp within that payload destination in there. But a good answer back from Natus Vincere here. And this is maybe where, more so than normal, you'd see the Shaolin flourish and maybe the Cassie from up top here.
And you would think that, and I think they're still going to because they have way more cover to duck behind.
True.
But you have to be very, very cautious to peek your head when there's a
That's
bubbled
true.
Strix out in the world.
You forget about Bittner. It's easy to forget about Bittner, but it's hard when he's doing so much damage.
Roll back to what we saw at the very beginning of the last game, or the last start, I guess, of Frozen Guard. 2150 was what his headshot hit for with that bubble on top of it. You have to be ever-presently aware of how much damage he's going to dish out. He might not have as much cover, but he does have a stealth, and he does have the bubble.
Is this, sort of a front-loaded game when the Wreckers come online? Does Natus Vincere kind of tilt it in their favor?
Yes, no, definitely.
Oh,
this is
the
kind of game you have to win, and you have to win fast.
That's a beautiful wall from Lazy on the side of Natus Vincere. Stops the ultimate from Xin coming through. Double kill for Phoenix. You always got to be careful when this guy starts to feel himself on some of these aggressive frontliners. Only kill coming through from NIP is going to be Diggy Dog onto Creatives. He's the last one alive. They're playing with their food just a little bit here. They're going to stagger him out, but still 30 seconds left, so once the stagger is complete, this is actually a genius stagger, the wall from Lazy. I mean, if you want to break down the stagger that we see here, not only are they body blocking him, but Lazy walled him off, but you have to be careful.
You see how everyone else is back now?
You have to be careful.
There goes Diggy.
Okay, there they go. Okay, there you go. But it was
That's how good
like
that
the little
stagger
micro
is.
play. Lazy threw up a wall so he couldn't jump himself off the map, and then the body block. So very good stagger. He is respawned now. He is coming back, but he won't be back until overtime has started. So no bubbles for NIP, at least for 5 or so seconds.
Which mainly means no big picks that should be coming out here. You can hear some shots still flying through, but it's not going to make a big difference. This is where fighting into the con is going to be incredibly difficult, especially if you are going to be Alex. I mean, his poor soul has to come through it. That's a 2,000 health bubble, by the way. That shield has 2,000 to it, and it just got popped with, what, one Shaolin arrow?
That's going to be tough for NIP. Mutu finds the opening kill in this one. Bird trying to find some healing, maybe a little bit of stun as well on the backside. Alex is the next to go. No more damage for the boys of NIP. Phoenix adds a third in this fight, and that should be it once Bird goes down. And it looks like Natus Vincere, they found themselves a good defense.
And this is where, again, their composition is going to play out, I think, a little stronger. I think what NIP have is a more Frozen Guard kind of composition. It plays the map very well.
Yeah, sure.
But you're up against an Anara Khan. And Anara Khan on Anara Khan Maldama. No, Anara Khan Ying on their side to be able to come through. Obnoxious amount of healings for the point tank. The ability to keep alive. You just toss an illusion onto Khan and let him battle shot himself. He stays alive just fine. There are very few scenarios, I think, where you actually see this kind of wipe from NIP. Right. And so I think this point fight is going to go a lot more to what we saw the first time around, where Na'Vi just, again, parked themselves and collapsed in.
It's something, something special, especially when you're watching a guy like Alex, but watching a good Xin player, it's almost like a flow, It's like a blade dancer in a way. The way the champion moves, you don't throw him in the same category as some of the other mobility champions, but a Xin that's really feeling the mojo of it all. Definitely can be a threat. Phoenix taking up his mantle on this left side here again. He has the ultimate coming in. That's a blow up from Alex, but one gets traded back. Mutu for Bittner. That's a con for a Strix on the opposite side. Mutu, you got to find somebody to put some damage onto him because he's tearing you apart right now. If you're NIP, you only have 3 left. Alex is up in the front line. That's a huge blast shot from Mutu. Blows up Alex. Bird's going to be the next to go, and it looks like Natus Vincere figured out the mid-fight.
So Tom Hardy gif of that's bait. Like, they see Phoenix is over there, and like that's what you should do. Like, that's how you should react. Phoenix was alone. He was isolated. When does Na'Vi play like that? Well, when the other 4 are grouped up running through the rest of your team.
Right.
As, what, 2, 3 members on NIP were trying to chase down and kill off Phoenix? Like, they got the kill, but like you said, Mutu was just safe along with an Inara and a Cassie next to him, pelting down, dealing with Bittner, dealing then with Bonker. Like, anybody who got in their way got torn away.
A little bit of a re-engage here. This is normally on Frozen Guard where you would see things stalled out, but Phoenix has done such a good job on this con, and yesterday as well. I mean, he has such a history of work that you can look back on, history of play, where you give him one of these power off tanks. It just makes life so hard for you. This time, though, it's lazy. Bittner and Bonker, they find their demise at the hands of the Inara this time around. The rest of them are trapped off from their team. I imagine this will be a wipe, and it's looking like it. Natus Vincere, that's a good calculated fight after the fight, just inching this payload ever closer. But this is where NIP will be able to come out of base, set up shop on this high ground, and Bittner becomes even a bigger threat.
I love Lazy Inara though right now. That's like the biggest thing out of that fight. Like, it's one of those, like, don't tell me Inara doesn't do enough damage because he's just chasing down Torvald that entire time.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get yourself a shield. You're not going to be able to heal back up. Like, I'm going to keep you locked down. I might not be able to kill you outright, but I will keep you low for my team.
Right.
Like, I will make sure you're not going to rise up.
Well, the payload is now crossed its threshold. He gets the pull, and it's onto Bird. That's massive. No more healing for 10 seconds for NIP. Are there follow-up kills? It's looking like it. The heat haze comes through as well.
Good.
Bittner, he has to back off. He pops the illusion on his side as well. Bittner goes down. The Strix is gone. Bird now is respawned. That's a double kill from Creatives. Make it a triple and make it 3 for Natus Vincere.
And this is where things get scary. If we look at the items, this is now shifting very heavily over. Actually, Mutu not opting to buy the tier 3 there. The question is whether or not Creatives will for that record, but 2 record 2s. Those bubbles were already dying incredibly fast. If just one of those goes to record 3, the other one stays at record 2, then they're non-existent.
Yeah,
that Torvald
Cassie,
literally
Shaolin.
means nothing anymore.
And that's where you look at the early game advantage, and that's what you saw. Well, so it was time number 2 that we had the mid-fight where NIP they blew up Na'Vi, and they didn't have a chance to contest. Na'Vi, of course, found the defense, but it was on the back end of not being able to deal with those bubbles, and now you're starting to see where Cassie and Shaolin just one shot's enough to destroy the bubble and then some. So while it's good, to have it on your side if you're able to stay away from a lot of that burst damage, it's hard when you also have somebody like Lazy being an offensive threat.
And it's this, like, no one else is really shooting. I think he gets 1 arrow from Mutu there, and then Creatives comes through. But, like, Lazy's just like, this is going to be the threat. This is going to be the problem. I'm going to keep him locked down. That's why I love Inara in those kinds of scenarios, just because it's not a lot of damage per pellet individually, but you're hitting 3 at a time. At that point, you're hitting 15 in a row. Like, if you hit all of your shots, Inara is one of those deadly, I would say maybe silent killers, where it's just like she's dealing that damage and you're not paying attention because, man, there's a Shaolin who's melting me. There's a Cassie who's melting me. And it's like, you're still in combat even when they're not looking at you. I wonder who's causing that.
There's a pretty big Haven priority as well for Natus Vincere. I saw 3 Haven 2s on their side.
That's good for him.
Absolutely. It's very good for the side of Natus Vincere. This could be the final point fight of game number 1 here. This is the number 1 in NIP versus the number 2 seed in Natus Vincere. No flip-flopping to be done at the top, but a bit of a statement game if Na'Vi are able to come out with the win. Jeez. Gore, it's the same exact start that we saw last time. If Creatives had hit that bolt, that could have been a dead Bittner on the backside. Seismic Crash did come through from Lazy, buys him some space. He's back to the point, his patented fighting style of staying right there, garnering a lot of percentage while the rest of the team fights through. Lazy throws up the Earthen Guard as well. Barrack just dancing around behind the shield. This is where you have to watch out. If Alex is able just to rip through your team, you're going to have a bad time. And those Torvald bubbles, they keep just getting deleted here in this case. And look how well Lazy is controlling this front line, now pushing through, right through the Dread Serpent. He's in onto Bird. Bird has to be careful here. He slithers away. Doesn't have the support of Alex anymore. Lazy's just in on the back line. Finally, Bonker comes to assist a little bit, but there's no kills just as of yet. A couple members of NIP are caught out, and look at those health bars. They're all half health.
All they need is 4 more %. This heal should be able to get him up there, and then you're going to have Illusory Rift. But you lose 2 before you're able to pop it. That is going to be the biggest thing. Bittner now can apply more pressure. You can just take the knife. They've already stabbed it in. They're going to twist it in the wound.
Unreal that they didn't end up dying there. They were all so low. Lazy was zoning out Bird. There was no healing, but NIP, they weathered the storm and they stayed alive. They have fast cap, I imagine, unless Phoenix is able to make a miracle play. This one's gonna be over. He is gonna be able to get in and get an overtime through, but he's gonna trade out his life for it unless there's some sort of crazy stagger that happens. NIP are on pace for their second point.
Ying tried to. Spunky threw up a clone to try and then move forward just a little bit, but they blew up the clone too fast. That's going to be the biggest issue, trying to track that one down. But honestly, that doesn't feel like NIP should win that fight.
It doesn't.
It feels very much like Na'Vi are in control for a lot of that. It is just that 2-second period between 96% and 100, that one heal that Spunky had to get off that didn't quite come fast enough because he had to wait on the cooldown, where Bittner just gets 2 kills. And all of a sudden, your Illusory Rift means kind of nothing. The 2 people you needed to heal were already gone.
Ooh, that spike does end up connecting on its way through. That's a tear. Phoenix gets a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Spike?
No. I don't know. I've lost it.
The double down dunk on?
I've lost it. Either way, Phoenix gets a kill. Ninjas and Pyjamas get the rest. This payload's moving forward. Consolation. That's where a consolation
prize.
Kill. You'd think that would come to mind quickly, but it did not.
It's like, hey guys, you just got completely wiped and thrashed, but at least you got rid of Bittner, right?
Right. So a 1 trade does not stop this NIP train from rolling forward already under this archway. And this Dome Shield could have a huge impact. He's going to be able to zone out so many members of Na'Vi, getting up onto the high ground.
Where are you going?
Instead, he's found creatives. He's ignoring the rest of the team. Now could be a good time to throw out the Dome Shield, but he does not want to do it just yet. The bowling ball is going to get him just a little bit of extra shielding, but he rolls right down into Lazy. Phoenix and Mutu, they combine for a little bit of a nullify onto Mutu, actually. It stops him from continuing his tear. But it's down to Diggy Dog, it's down to Bird, and it's down to the bottom of the map they go. Bit of a reset, 50 seconds left. Still plenty of time for NIP.
So I admire what Bonker was trying to do because it was dealing with pressure and kind of making more people look at him. Like, again, kind of screaming, "Look at me," as he ran up to their base and started shooting the Cassie. And it's a kind of play you can only make with bowling ball. Being able to have that reset, being able to, like, okay, cool, I have my dash again, I can get back out. But he didn't get to use his ult. He didn't really buy any space. Like, it didn't really accomplish anything. It just, the theory behind it was really cool. So I'm wondering if, like, if he does that again, if it will be more effective, or if he even tries.
The idea, I guess, was good, going in invisible, but he gets called out. Natus Vincere sniff it out. They know where he is on the end of it. It times out Mutu and Spunky, Bittner, Bonker. They're down, but Alex is still alive. In he goes. He could find a kill onto Mutu that could turn this one around, but there's still so much healing from the side of Natus Vincere up top, and they're going to get some respawns. Phoenix continues his tear as well. Back to base goes Diggy Dogs. No more bubbles for you, says Alex. Bird is just going to try to get a touch, and overtime's going to expire. No points for NIP. Still game point for Natus Vincere.
They have Illusory Rift at the beginning of the round this time. They have Overpower ready for them as well.
You know what that looks like? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. One of those like Spanish conquistador hats.
But with like the eyes on it. He's Cortez going to the new world, which isn't really a new world. People were already there. It was just new to him.
How are you supposed to have a serious discussion about somebody when that pops up on your screen?
It's a hard job, Dave.
It is, yeah.
But we'll go through the trenches for it.
That's right. We'll trudge through.
It's hard.
You're right, though. Illusory Rift is up. Only Heat Haze down for Mutu. Lazy having a very good game, controlling that front line. You saw what he did in the last fight. Basically zoned out Bird and Bonker from the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
But Ninjas in Pyjamas were able to survive through it.
The other thing that NIP didn't get that they might be able to find this time, Hyper Beam was used. It got a couple of knockbacks, but it didn't get any knockoffs.
True.
And that's why I'm wondering, like, Diggy, Torvald is almost never in a position to actually get aggressive. But when an Overpower is missed like that, that means the ball is in your court. You can go.
Bonker's low, but he's able to back off right here. That's a good stun. That opens up Phoenix. He gets one onto Bittner, who's gone now. Diggy Dog is so low. That's going to be 2 for the con. Alex might make it 3. He has a little bit of a block. Oh, that's a good Dread Serpent. Sends him running, but now his eyes are on Bird. The healing is gone. Phoenix with 3 in this fight. Make it 4. 2 doubles equals 4. And Natus Vincere, they're on the point, and they could win this game.
And just being able to find the control, it was systematic. There was a lot of dispersion on the side of NIP. Hyper Beam's going to be used there just to kind of create space, try to knock him off the point, but it didn't succeed.
Didn't succeed. That's a mid-fight for the ages. Natus Vincere, they strike first.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you, though? I mean, towards the end of that game, that's what we said. Once those bubbles become a little less effective, you know, that's when Natus Vincere maybe get a little bit of an edge. 4-2, it's a pretty fast start from the boys in yellow.
It's not only the Wreckers coming online, but it's also just the way Na'Vi play point fights, where it's just Lazy's going to be over there. He's going to be very effective because of the layout of Frozen Guard. That it's not like, oh, he's sacrificing to be out of this fight in order to, you know, stand here and collect this percentage. It's, no, he's going to be perfectly fine. Like, he's going to get shots on you over here. Even at the very end, the biggest kill is probably Bittner, and he's the reason it comes through. He just yeets his spear across the map and makes sure to find it.
And you know what I saw there towards the end was Phoenix was like constantly in 2v1s. They were sending Phoenix off to the side. Bittner, Torvald were who he was going toe-to-toe with. Good stuns, locked them down. But he was holding his own and then some. He killed them, and then Bird and Bonker come through, and he kills them as well on top. Or Bird and, it was Bird and Bonker. Either way, Phoenix doing his job yet again. 1-0 to the side of Na'Vi. What are you thinking on the desk?
I'm thinking that NIP try and go back to the Frozen Guard, as I mentioned. The last time these two played, it was Na'Vi who found the victory there. And again, on NIP's map selection, Na'Vi's able to get it done.
That's a tough way to start this set for sure. And these sets that are likely to be 7 games are likely to be very, very hard fought. You have to take what you feel is your best foot forward. At the end of the day, for me, that feels like an NIP composition that's just harder to do than what Na'Vi draft. I said it yesterday, Na'Vi's that consistent, you know, 8.5, 9 out of 10 blue chip stock, baby. And it's like, that's what they draft, man. Nobody relies too heavily on each other. They're really just all kind of looking to get in there and do their thing as a team, and that's kind of what they drafted here, and it worked for them.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, that point control, we talk about it a lot with this team. The Inara there was able to do quite a bit of work, but how about Phoenix again, man? This con selection that in these off tanks that he's been going to, he was killing it yesterday up against Space Station. He's really continuing that momentum here today.
I think it's a huge deal for Phoenix to be able to have a type of performance like that on a map that's so long range, where he's really getting blown up, kind of focused. You know, he's getting the Zen ult and then getting shot down by Strix. That's a tough one. That can be tilting at times as well, to feel like there's just not much you can do. He's honestly lowest damage on his team in terms of like who's relevantly doing damage.
Sure.
Lazy did a great job, I think, realizing there is a lot of pressure on Phoenix right now. I need to go make myself useful elsewhere. He rotates off the point a lot, gets a lot of poke damage out.
Man, I mean, Alex and Bittner did more damage than anybody else on Na'Vi. These damage dealers of Shaolin and Cassie had good score lines, but not outright damage. That just tells me that the focus fire from Na'Vi may have been a little bit stronger, a little bit less poke damage.
What they do, man, their numbers don't always like line up with the wins that they get, but Na'Vi plays so well as a team, and you saw that reflective in Phoenix's interview today too. Like, almost all of his answers are really with that mindset of like, we have to worry about everyone on NIP. It's a team game. We have to play together. We're going to be a unit, and we're going to be unstoppable because of it.
And they looked like it here in this game. Overall, I think Na'Vi, it is one of those teams that, you're kind of lost at what you can afford to give them at times. I mean, if you can't give Phoenix Atlas and Makoa, well, you got to ban those, but then the con is there for them. And NIP get the Torvald, but it just doesn't end up working in the long run for them.
FaZe Khan is nuts. He's got one of the best in the business on it. I'm curious to see what this match looks like once NIP can sort of return to form and Diggy Dog can start to do his thing again. Imagine like if he has to take this backseat role all day, and it's only with these Torvald strats. I don't know that they'll go to that again, but
sure.
I really, really want to see what Diggy Dog can do when he's on an aggressive front line like Phoenix was on Frozen Guard, because those two going at it, it's a real treat to watch.
Stone Keep will be our second map here today. Is that a big disadvantage when a top pick, top ban character, you get it game one, and then it doesn't really perform, and the other team knows maybe they won't go back to it again? Do you think that's a big disadvantage?
I think it is, right? When you looked at the way that it was drafted, like planting that little seed with the Willow sort of situation, that's like Now Na'Vi, they have that, I think, just a little nugget of information in their pocket when they're drafting. Well, you have to sort of play mind games in the draft sometimes. You have to predict what your opponent's going to do, and based on how other games went, these drafts do evolve. You'll see new bans, you'll see different pick priorities, all types of stuff. Obviously, the maps have something to do with that, but the previous games and previous performances do as well.
So Na'Vi not deciding to take the Torvald or let NIP ban it themselves. They ban it anyways in that first pick slot. They'll pair that with an Atlas ban. NIP ban the Cassie right away here on Stone Keep. I mean, just trying to keep Na'Vi honest here on the damage dealing department.
I think there's that element. Both Mutu and Creatives can play it, and I thought it was pretty effective. It does go like 7 and 8 last game, but watching it every time, I'm like, man, like these shots, these power mid-rangers are still very potent. Because NIP are second pick, they might be looking to try and keep a couple of power things open for themselves just to keep this draft more on the wide open rather than on the straight and narrow.
So now they've got one more ban to go in this slot. Ashe, very popular to be banned around this area. You can take away the Khan potentially from Phoenix. I mean, that certainly seems like a first pick worthy selection for him at this rate. Makoa, of course, still on the table, and that's the direction NIP will go. I'm glad that they didn't forget about it as quickly as I did. But that does mean that Phoenix gets the Khan again.
He's just he's going to first pick it, I think, pretty much every day. That's a tough situation for NIP to be in. And now it's the Inara hover. Ashe picked up as well. This is the type of frontliner that I wanted to see Dicky Dog on. I think he's really something special on this role, and it's such a big part of who NIP have made themselves out to be this season. That aggression is facilitated by the off-tank role, and specifically what Diggy Dog can do, how up in the grill he can get of his opponents. You just can't do it with Torvald. It's just not the character for it. He's even gone so far to change my opinion on like Barrack and his ability to get aggressive and make space. He'll just rocket boot straight at a team and drop a dome shield on their face. That type of play is what makes NIP NIP, and he can only do that from an aggressive tank.
And Ashe certainly fits that bill, so a good look for NIP already here early on. Shaolin locked in again. It worked well for Na'Vi last game. May as well go back to it.
Yeah, and again, it really is one of those characters that I think either the backliners for Na'Vi can play. And it's a really good like 1-2 punch here specifically. Shaolin has been on the rise as a good counter to Eevee. The amount of burst damage he brings, especially with the explosive arrow play style. When Cassie's not around, he becomes one of the premier anti-flanks, given how Leon has fallen out of the meta as well.
But they pair it with the Eevee anyways, taking it kind of the counter pick away and the pick itself all at the same time. So Na'Vi has plenty of damage already through these first 3 selections. Just need a little bit more frontline and a support for them still. NIP, I mean, are you worried about a Genos? I was going to ask, but Maldamba is the pick already. But Genos with Eevee, usually pretty hard to deal with. Khan with that blessing can be a pretty big nightmare. I mean, do you think that's the direction Na'Vi could go here?
I really think so. I mean, Genis Barrack would be a pretty, I think, done and dusted way to wrap up this draft for them. They get really strong picks on everyone, man. And this is their map pick. This is a game that is tough to lose for Na'Vi. I'm a little concerned for NIP.
Yeah, this is a great draft for Na'Vi. I love it as well. NIP now, they need a flanker potentially, though as you mentioned, Shaolin, a great anti-flank character, can give a character like Maeve potentially a lot of trouble. Could see Alex go back to the Xin.
This is it. Alex is 95% probably going to play this Tyra, and now this comes down to Tenor is one of the more flexible players in the league, and there's so many things open that he could play. Like the meme is like he posts this picture on Twitter of like Grover with Pip's face with Tyra's gun riding Amani's dragon, and as he plays more things, he just adds more things to his mural of characters that he plays. So they take their time. Okay, so I said 95% chance. This is probably that 5%. Alex is, I think, likely to be on the BK here and Tenor on the Tyra.
Interesting. So Bomb King there. I mean, Stone Keep has the wide open areas towards the middle, but also a lot of narrow corridors that you can really use that blaster to your advantage. Just a matter of how much I think this Eevee will be able to get away with in this composition. It looks like it could be hard to lock her down.
BK is relative spice, I think. NIP don't play a ton of this character. The league doesn't play a ton of this character right now, and Stonekeep has always been okay for him, but it's always because he was just strong everywhere, right? He was just a strong character, almost kind of like how that Eevee conversation went yesterday. So I'm really curious to see how this one plays out.
Man, Navi's draft looks great. They're already up 1-0, but NIP, they've been the top card all phase 1. We'll see what happens. It's game 2. We've got Gormizer and a man whose intelligence would put Sherlock Holmes to shame, Dave Olson.
Goddamn right it would.
Yeah. The
That's
question
fair.
is,
He's not wrong. He's not
I would
wrong.
argue which Sherlock Holmes.
That's right.
But I think the answer is all of them.
All of them, yeah, maybe.
The
Maybe.
books, any TV portrayal,
The
Benedict
one who's
Cumberbatch,
also
Robert Downey Jr.
The one who's also Doctor Strange, yeah, probably.
The one that's also Doctor Strange and the one that's also Iron Man.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, and then you start branching out from there, and you get into dangerous territory.
I mean, I guess at
6
that point,
degrees of separation, I'm smarter than everyone,
well, I was
right?
going to say, by proxy, you're smarter than Doctor Strange and
Right.
Iron Man, which means that you are
and
just
in
a
their
literal
universe,
genius.
they're smarter. You know, there's a whole web
yeah.
that we can really dive into here. But what you can dive into, and I agree with Nick on this, Bomb King is not spice in the current meta of Paladins, but it's interesting seeing Bittner play Bomb King. They don't really play Bomb King on the NIP side.
And I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm giving anyone Bomb King on that team, it's not
oh, it's Alex. Wait a second. It's not even Bittner.
I would give it to Diggy. I would have one of the others flex onto an uncomfortable frontline role and let Diggy just go rampant on Bomb King, because he is
you're right.
hands down one of the best Bomb King players I think that we have in the scene, but it's just you don't get to see it often because, well, he's a frontline player now. He's not going to be pulling it out. They've done it, I think, a few weeks ago, actually more towards the first half of the split, when they were running triple DPS. They would flex Diggy onto the Bomb King because of that fact.
It's worked out for them up to this point. A couple kills and net them 54% on the point here. This is going to be a retake attempt from Natus Vincere. A couple low targets. Bird, namely. If they call him on that up high, they could be without healing on the NIP side. He's going to go toe-to-toe with Bonker here in this case. Bird still very low. Stands in his own healing. Top himself off to about 80%. First ultimates of the game starting to come through. That's a good Ice Storm. Finds a lot of value. Diggy Dog and Bird and Alex are all so low in this backside, but there's no follow-up. Phoenix finds the only one onto Bittner right now. Through time and space is just wide. 96%, though. You have to look at that. Natus Vincere have been fighting from the point yet again. Creatives adds one onto Bonker. That's so much frontline presence. That's now gone. That's an important answer back, though, from Alex. Bird with another one, but they're not in range to contest. I don't care about your double kills. I care about the point, and that goes to Natus Vincere.
As much as I have heard specifically NIP talking about overtime timers and best ways to deal with them, that was the best example coming down from Na'Vi, where it's just like, if you touch here, we know we have 6 seconds or so that we just aren't going to capture if we're standing on it. And we have this giant red bar on the top of our screen that's going to cause a lot of stress for our teammates. Like, instead, we're just going to leave the point, and when it's done, I'll just put my toes on there and we got the point.
That's right. For NIP, they'll wish that that moment had happened a little sooner. Creatives comes out of the ice block. Diggy Dog getting that kill. A second one now. Overpower actually from Natus Vincere here. That's going to get rid of Bonker here in this case. Minute and 42 seconds left. Payload has not moved an inch. And Stone Keep's definitely a map where you can see the defensive team looking like they're attacking because they're pushing so far into the enemy base. And with Bittner going down, it looks like that might be the case. They're finally able to break out of their base on the Natus Vincere side and get this payload moving forward.
There are no maps in the game that favor the attackers because that would just be busted. But there are some maps that favor the defenders, I think, a little more. And Stone Keep is one of those. It is very much defender's advantage just because, very similar like Frozen Guard, once you get past this archway, it is just a melting pot. Like they are all high ground, dumping damage down into you. You are in an awkward spot. You can't take as much cover. You're like, it's just a difficult fight if you're Na'Vi here. So you need this high ground pressure. You need to get a couple kills here, and then all of a sudden that payload's a little more smooth.
Creatives nearly got absolutely blown up. Mutu pops the heat haze and puts himself into the high ground in the enemy team's base, but is he able to find any damage? Makes his way back down the steps. Bonker's low. A second Ice Storm. Buys a little bit of zoning, blinking back and forth. Bittner now back in this fight through time and space, ready for Spunky. He could pull it out right here. He knows where they're all fighting, but all they need is the Dome Shield. A couple kills come on the back end, but really it was the Dome Shield, it was the zoning, it was just the presence of Na'Vi. And Gore, wouldn't you believe it, NIP, they're down 2-0.
Honestly, this is one of those moments, and the question you have to ask yourself if you're watching it is one of, is this NIP playing poorly? Is this Na'Vi playing really well? And what I said to you after game 1, I was like, if NIP don't clean things up, like if they play the way they play on Frozen Guard on every single map, it doesn't matter any history of the sets, any time, any history of the maps they've had this split. This is the kind of Na'Vi that won a world championship. This is the kind of Na'Vi that has risen to the top and then stayed on top afterward. this is something I think that's a little big for NIP to kind of prove to themselves and show that they do have that elasticity. Because the last time they played against Na'Vi here, they won this map.
Looks like they're poised to do so yet again here. No ultimates for them. 4 ultimates for NIP. You got to imagine the red side will have a little bit of an advantage in this one. Don't need it for the kill onto Lazy. It's a lot of point presence that's gone, so now Natus Vincere can't push as far forward as maybe they were hoping. Assert dominance from Diggy Dog. That's going to stun up Mutu, net him a kill. Alex now a little bit caught out of position. Phoenix could clean up the kill, but the healing is good, and the damage is not from Phoenix. Alex wins that one. The comeback mechanics is going to put them to 93%. King Bomb, maybe just a little icing on the cake. Overtime ticking away.
That King Bomb is 100% stop Lazy from getting to the point. Keep him locked down, and even still they get an overtime touch, but they should be able to lock him out. There's enough health bars low on the side of Na'Vi that it's difficult to get back in.
You got to be careful if you're Mutu right now, right into the Dread Serpent, tried to get a touch. A little bit of a last-ditch effort. Maybe a couple kills for Natus Vincere, but what matters is the point goes to NIP. They are on defense, though, so defensive stand would still net Natus Vincere a point, get them to 3 in this case. But NIP are trying not to do what they did to Natus Vincere last time around, where they get trapped in their own base and are unable to get the payload moving, but that's exactly what happens. Overpower. Phoenix felt free and clear to use that to try to break out of their base last time around. And that worked out for them in their favor. Now their ultimates are the ones that are up. Did not have them for that mid-fight, so not surprising to see NIP winning that one.
I mean, everything I think that shakes out, it comes down to Bird is a really, really good support player.
Yeah.
And it was where he placed that Dread Serpent. Like, it's enough that it's going to cover the point. I don't know. I think a lot of Maldamba players, especially on these two teams, whichever one, if it's Bird or Spunky, can land that ult. But seeing it like from Mutu's perspective, where he kind of flips into it, and then right as he would have landed on the point to get an overtime touch, gets pushed away.
Mr. Creatives, hello. Gets himself a triple in this one.
Casually.
I mean, in the
drops
grand,
a triple.
as casual of a triple as you can find. That's what it was
Look at
that
him.
time.
He doesn't even care. There's no hype in that face.
This is a good zone from Natus Vincere. NIP, they had the zone in, but it got broken after, honestly, like half a team fight. And that allowed Na'Vi to push that payload through. 60 seconds left is all that remains for NIP. It's going to be a little bit longer. Creatives and Mutu, a little bit of a pincher move. You got Creatives on one side, you got the Shaolin of Mutu on the other. Which way do you want to go? You can't go anywhere. 45 seconds left is what we're down to. This is a pretty textbook zone coming out from Na'Vi.
I would even argue it's textbook, almost too textbook. You know what I mean? Like, this is like with the surgeon who refuses to do anything. Like, you know that there's a solution outside of what you read in the textbook, but they refuse to do anything else because, like, there's 30 seconds left. They spent 2 minutes fighting this like it's a mid-fight, essentially. Like, NIP have almost no chance to move forward. At this rate, if they can get rid of Creatives right there, they get a lot of kills on the side of Na'Vi, so they should be able to get to the payload.
But Phoenix is still alive. They have somebody on it.
In overtime?
Right. They have somebody alive. Payload now moving forward. Bonker smartly wraps around. It is going to be an overtime push, and it still has a long way to go. It is moving quickly. I imagine it'll get to 40, 50% kind of right through that archway before it's really halted off. But Natus Vincere in a great spot to maybe hold this one. Lazy holding down the backside. Bird is so low right now. Phoenix with one onto Bittner, make it 2. That's a damage. That's a healer. They're both gone. And it looks like overtime may be ticking away in the wrong direction if you're a fan of red.
Now the question is, well, answered already before I could even get the full thing out. It was how many ults do Na'Vi have to use to find this defense? It looked like it was going to be none, and it stayed at none. So they managed to maintain that, get a 3-1 lead, and put themselves into this round with 5 ults. As a team that already plays from the point, as a team that's already winning, I would say a hefty majority of these point fights. NIP get comeback mechanic, that's their saving grace, that's their consolation for this one. But I just don't know if it's going to be as impactful. Like, they need some really big plays. They have all 5 of their ults, but you have Creatives doing this.
And remember, they lost that last mid-fight so handily because NIP had all of their ults and Natus Vincere had none of their ults from the last push.
Now it's even.
They sold out for everything on their second point, the offensive push.
Sellouts.
Unreal. But they did get the point for it. So now we're back to even. So the scales are kind of back to where we were, and they were probably getting a lot of credits just from doing damage and killing off NIP time and time again. First ultimate's coming through. It's going to be a Dread Serpent just wide. is the through time and face from Spunky, but what matters is the rest of the kills are blue here in this case. The shoulder bash is going to try to find something, but it's finding nothing. Creatives has 2. The high ground fight goes to Phoenix, and NIP are decimated. Natus Vincere in control.
You know, I guess how like when you talk about team allegories, you always hear how they're all parts of the one machine.
Right.
You don't truly get to see that often. There's always some little mistake here, little mistake there from someone, right?
Yep.
Na'Vi just played flawlessly. Like that was the most perfectly executed team fight I think I've ever seen.
Well, you need this King Bomb to connect if you want to have a chance, but it's not going to get the chance. 93, 96, 99, and 100 goes that mid fight. Natus Vincere win game 2 and are now up 2-0 over NIP.
And honestly, I think this is more than enough to showcase why NIP have said multiple times they are scared of Na'Vi. And it's something that I think coming into this split, they've been scrim partners. They were one of the two of the teams from Europe that have not moved here. And so because of that, when they're both back home, that's who they're playing all the time is each other. And most of those go Na'Vi's way. Most of the time Na'Vi is able to win and kind of topple that. Then the split starts, everything's on LAN, and NIP are these monsters. Like, they're still scared because they know Na'Vi know their weaknesses, and I think they're showing them today.
And it's, you know, you talk about, you know, maybe granted, they've lost one game. So, you know, NIP, they're still the top dog in this league. They've only lost once. Everyone else has lost, I think 5 is the next lowest amount of losses. But the way these games have gone, it almost seems like NIP have started to level off, whereas teams like Na'Vi and Space Station Gaming are still kind of climbing that roller coaster, maybe not surpassing them as of yet, but this is a pretty telling game so far, up 2-0.
And this is also, again, you're looking at MSI, implications that this has. I mean, these teams are already playing on LAN now. They're going to be playing on LAN again in just a little over a week to be able to do that.
That's right.
But then you're also looking at, okay, well, what about Split 2? What about Worlds? Like, where does this lead in for that? That's where the implications are really heavy.
I'm very excited. Game 2 is in the books. Na'Vi up 2-0. Aggro, can you believe it?
I can't personally, but I think Nick can. Nick can probably believe it. I mean, Navi's been playing well, right?
That's how it should look on your map pick, I think, especially when teams with this much history, they're like the first 2 map picks are very polarizing because like you just start to learn to hate their map pick and not want to do it and just like accept that you're going to lose that in the set and vice versa. But you know, 2 relatively immobile backliners is not very common to see. Like I mentioned, you know, 95% chance we see Alex on this Tyra, and this was that 5% that we didn't, and it was a little weird.
Yeah, just a little bit off. I mean, they did similar damage, him and Bittner, but just not enough, I would say, overall. Worth noting, by the way, you mentioned that was Navi's map pick. They also picked this map up against NIP last time, and NIP won it. So they're able to get it back this time when they select it. 14-4 for Creatives here. An impressive performance from him. This EV selection, I mean, the strategy of first pick going early off tank into damage, I think has been really potent because the team that's in second pick is kind of forced into picking both of their tanks right away, right? Because of the way that the meta is kind of developing. And so the first pick being able to save their tanks until later, knowing you'll get at least one good one, and just picking your premier damage dealers, I think is a very successful strategy.
It's a bit strange to see, you know, both damage sat on, really. You kind of hit the nail on the head there. Both damage to be sat on so late in the draft. And again, when you sort of cross-reference and cross-match every single character against every single character they're going to be sort of lining up against in this game, you're almost kind of giving it to Na'Vi or calling it a wash with every single step of the way. Part of that comes with being a flexible team. There isn't necessarily a ton of identity for their backliners.
Sure.
They play so much. But again, you look at that Na'Vi draft and you're like, goodness gracious, who is anything but enthralled with the pick that they got?
Yeah, Navi's draft was just phenomenal. Do you think that teams should be in that second pick slot? Do you think going tank is usually a mistake? Because in that game, for example, Na'Vi already has Khan. You pick a Nara. Do you need to pick Ashe in that slot, or is she in danger of getting taken away?
I think you need to pick Ashe. For me, it's unlikely that Na'Vi go for the double aggro tank. Getting Ashe there is like, it's kind of like you can exhale.
Right.
I think in that situation, getting either Barrack or a Nara is fine for either team, and that's why you see people typically try to transition into their damage pick. So it was a little strange for me.
We'll see if Na'Vi's able to kind of rectify that second pick this time around, that they are in it because NIP's in the first pick slot. And an immediate Genos ban. Genos has not been picked No, he actually, excuse me, was picked in that last game and was actually a big part of what Na'Vi were doing. But it was 9th picked overall. So NIP take it off the board right away here, though, thinking that must have been a linchpin of that comp.
Which is weird. It was. It's a big part of that composition success, but not overly prioritized.
Right.
Maybe because it's the increased value, like people realizing that you can get damage amp from Tyra if you really, really want it, and it is going to be the success of your comp. And a lot of times people do look at Tyra as mark people up and cheerlead and, do damage when you can. So if you're there to just mark people up, then Genos and Tyra may as well be serving the same role. Maybe that's why we see him fall in priority a little bit, but to then see him go from 8th to banned is a weird jump for sure.
I like this from Na'Vi. I mean, you gave NIP Torvald earlier on. It didn't really scare you too much. No reason to shy away from it here. Ban the Atlas. NIP will try and run it back, though, with that Torvald. Do you think he does a little better here on Jaguar Falls than on that Frozen Guard?
Yeah, because I think it's a little bit easier for whatever you pair it with if it's going to be a Bomb King, if they want to continue to kind of lean on Bomb King a little bit here today, if they want to go just hard damage amp with stuff like Tyras and Genos. I mean, even amping a Tyra on this map is okay. This map is one of my favorites because it really doesn't limit you a whole lot in what you can play. There's not really long lines of sight, so you don't see a ton of snipers here. But other than that, man, you can really run a lot of stuff on Jaguar Falls, which is why to me it's fun to watch. I think because of the early Torvald, that's why you see the early Bomb King response from Na'Vi.
Man, Na'Vi early, this might be the first time between yesterday and today that we've seen a team go no tank in the top 2. They go damage, really prioritizing those. And now NIP have their choice. They can go Ashe here, but that is kind of 2 off tanks, right?
In a sense, yeah, they have no hard point tank, but this is a map, Jaguar Falls. NIP almost always pick Pip here and do very, very well with it. And they need usually to pair it with something like a hard dive tank. In my mind, it looks like a Pip and Ashe or a Pip and a Khan followed up by whatever Alex plays. Usually it's kind of something a little bit slower, maybe Bomb King, maybe Tyra. He tries to keep up as best he can. Playing very fast, though. That's the way NIP like to get it done. At the end of the day, all the tanks that are open, no matter what NIP picked as their second tank, Na'Vi were cool getting the other 2. So that's why I think they stay away from it.
Makes sense. An early Furia selection here, though. I mean, this doesn't eliminate the Pip necessarily, but it just feels like a pick that we don't see that much Furia. Usually when we do, it's 9th or 10th. NIP maybe just not wanting to show what else they've got in the tank here.
Pip is basically like Hades. He's listed as support, is in no way.
Gotcha.
You can play Mega Potion, nobody does it. Almost everyone plays him damage. NIP exclusively play it as a damage dealing character with the potential to burst heal up some teammates.
Makes sense.
Give them some good healing. The more I think about it, draws a lot of parallels to Hades
in
a couple of ways. Very, very fun stuff for NIP though. They do it a Whoa! What's up indeed? What's up indeed, my
Listen,
friend?
man, I haven't been here very long, Nick, on the Paladin side, but I know that is weird.
Uncanny selection here. Extremely long time since we have seen Lex. I'll try to break it down a little bit, but Gore's going to have to pick up the slack here as we get into game. Good character, moves very, very fast, does a ton of damage, and if you can sort of turn your brain off and just go blind aggression with Torvald backing you up, that's sort of the kind of conversation here. This is NIP, man. They're going to hit that inflame, they're going to damage amp everybody, and it's going to be the full gas pedal, and Na'Vi are just going to have to survive. They've drafted 3 DPS, which is equally weird for them. I am super excited for this game.
Unbelievable, man. A Lex selection here. One that, I mean, when I'm getting the rundown, the quick breakdown from you guys, like, okay, here are the picks you see, you won't see Lex. Like, do not worry about seeing Lex. There's no chance you see that character.
I mean, Lex Moji are the 2, like, you sort of meme about never being picked, but they've both been picked in the last 2 days.
Here they are, man. Game 3, Na'Vi already up 2-0. I mean, NIP kind of backs against the wall right now. Game 3 about to get started. Gore Miser and a man faster than Mario Andretti, Dave Olsen.
I've agreed with everything he said up to this point, but I am so slow. I'm probably the slowest person I know. So, aggro, I appreciate it. Maybe, well, he said Andretti, who's in a car, so maybe he means I drive fast, in which case, that's not wrong.
You could be a new stunt driver.
I could. All right, Gore, let's detract from that. Lex, what the?
We could probably, honestly, yeah, let's just run through the rest of them. Everything else is standard. Wormjet's there for Drogos is going to be big.
Show me loadout, yeah.
But here's going to be the loadout. Normally it's moving around fast, but you could see having, cooldown of Combat Slide. 40% movement speed after Combat Slide ends, increase the distance of Combat Slide. And I didn't get to look at the last two, but I'm assuming that he had some maybe damage reduction. No, he didn't have that one in there. So it's just going to be zip around. This is one of the things Lex can do, and he can do it better than you, and that is run around really fast.
Yeah.
The problem is his damage output. As you can see there, it just isn't great.
Well, all he did this time around was die after shooting a couple shots through. Natus Vincere had an answer for it, and that answer is just some good old-fashioned shooting. They're back on the point.
I haven't looked at a Lex loadout in literally a year, if not longer. Like, you could have asked me to name one card about Lex, and I could not have done it before today.
And it's Bonker who's playing it, so, you know, take that. Take that for
wait,
what
is
it
it
is.
really?
It's
Oh.
Alex on the Zin, Bonker on the Lex. You know, Bittner now is flexing onto the Torvald, so some gamesmanship coming out from NIP. Natus Vincere, capture point number 1. And then we're so, you know, wide-eyed by the Lex coming through. Natus Vincere have drafted a triple DPS composition for themselves.
Oh, wait, yeah, what?
They have
they've got a double
Drogos, Bomb
blaster.
King, and Cassie.
I literally didn't
Gore,
even
what's
notice.
going on?
This is what happens when Na'Vi beat you outright 2 maps in a row, and then you recognize that Na'Vi are just going to beat you outright. Like, this, I think, in my mind, is NIP. It's still a strat, right? They're still trying something new, but also kind of recognizing that, you know what, maybe we don't win this set. And, like, we're so far ahead, they can afford it, but at the same time, again, your stats carry on throughout the phases. I doubt we're ever going to see this happen again, but
Careful with your words, Gore.
how many?
This is the
wanna know.
beginning of the Lex meta.
I'm gonna have to look because I can't remember if there's a champion that has been unpicked this PPL now.
Yeah, maybe not. We'll have to find those stats at some point. Lex was at 0 picks and now up at 1. Payload getting very close to going in. Phoenix, of course, on the Cassie this time around. Everyone's swapping around in this one. Bonker on the Lex has a double kill. Heads back to base, though. Spunky and Alex trade out as well. Natus Vincere at about half strength. Alex on the Zin, making them pay for just being in their base at all. Torvald bubble going on to him as well. And out comes Bonker. Killing spree for the Zin in this case.
Lex. What world are we living in right now?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I'm still catching up to Bonker.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, you know who caught up to him was Phoenix. Blasted him right off the map there.
My full mind was left in that final point fight between SSG and Renegades yesterday, so it's still full catch-up.
Well, they're not giving up on the side of NIP. They've definitely, you know, dug their feet in here. The Inflame comes through, so you imagine that the boys in blue will have a pretty good shot at winning this one. Alex has been swinging away on the Zin, one of the least surprising picks in this one. Lazy stays alive, though. He gets blasted right off the map by the Hyper Beam. Buys a little bit of value from Bittner here. It's a 1-for-1 trade. The respawns are going to be coming in closer for NIP, though. 15 seconds left, so a couple respawns from Natus Vincere. Maybe get them back into this one. You got to be careful. When Phoenix is able to back up and find a lot of space, that's when he's going to be starting to find some of these kills rolling. Phoenix and Creatives, they wrap that one up. 2 kills for them. And that makes 2 points for Natus Vincere.
And I think a lot of what we're going to end up seeing here is that while Torvald, I think Torvald and Lex next update is going to be an incredibly deadly conversation to have, but Lex in this meta right now, there's a reason he's not picked. There's a reason this is the first game we're seeing.
No.
In 13 weeks of play, running however many hundreds of games, he just doesn't come through often. His damage is a little lower than everybody else's. His movement speed is awesome, but running circles around your opponent doesn't stop them from doing what they're doing well, which right now for Na'Vi is slaughtering you.
And you know what triple DPS affords you is triple Wrecker 2s. And those
triple
Torvald
Wrecker 2s, triple top damage dealt, probably triple great slash lines.
And
Mutu, 2-2 in time. Pick up the slack, man.
2 and 8 is where Bonker stands on the Lex this time around. Fast cap is going to be around for NIP, and the billows coming through from Alex. First kill of this one goes from Lazy onto Diggy Dog. And Alex, honestly, I think has been kind of the saving grace in this one, NIP. They haven't been, I don't know, working as the rest of the composition hasn't been working as well. But you see so many of these fights where Alex, you know, has a double, has a triple, trying to keep things in line. But Natus Vincere yet again fighting from the point.
So where the last game Na'Vi, and I mean, admittedly this game too, looked like a well-oiled machine, NIP here are, I mean, they're throwing things to the wall, seeing what sticks. They're doing pretty well. Bonker being able to get a kill right there, it's going to be good against the Drogos, but it's how much can they hold on to, and how much is going to be assisted by a comeback mechanic more than anything.
Inflame is going to start off this one. Natus Vincere just backing off, or I should say NIP just backing off, trying to avoid so much of this damage, but Phoenix tumbles in, gets the kill. Lazy stuns up Diggy Dog. He's got people on either side. Shoulder bash and some shielding could win him this fight, and it does. The turnaround from Diggy onto Phoenix saves a little bit for NIP, but the rest of Natus Vincere, too much damage coming through. NIP were able to get themselves to 97% in the meantime, but Bittner has to be the one to move forward, get a touch. Creatives get some free sticks. It looks like Natus Vincere is onward to point number 3.
Alex gets a couple kills there, and that is where you're going to feel that
slides.
pillow nerf. The slide comes in, the slide comes through, and again, he moves really well. I was actually hoping NIP were going to come through and just like thrash Na'Vi, and it was just like Jaguar Falls is going to be the map of the flanks, but doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, I was telling you coming into this, I was like, if Pip comes through,
and
they win, I would be mad, because that's what happens every single. I would love to see a stat on how many times we play on Jaguar Falls and NIP does not pick Pip. This would be one of them, and maybe one of the only times. I would say maybe about as many times as Lex gets picked is how many times Pip is not picked for NIP. Lazy and Creatives combining for a couple. That's a surrounding team fight from Natus Vincere. They're rolling through. They could make this 4-0. NIP, they just look outclassed today.
You know, yeah, that's the only way I can think to word it. I was trying to dance around, see if there was anything else, but this is just Na'Vi showcasing why they have a world championship under this roster's belt, and NIP showcasing that teams have caught up. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. They were afraid of Na'Vi for good reason. Right now they're trying things out. Lex didn't work. I'm interested to see what they pull out for the next map to see if anything actually is a saving grace. But with a kill there, maybe one more coming through here for Na'Vi, I expect this payload to be slowly but surely walking its way in.
Well, there's only 3 members of NIP left alive, and they're all zoned back into the base. Phoenix on the Cassie flexing his DPS muscles. Na'Vi, Goremizer, 3-0 up on NIP. We thought this one could go 7. I'm not even sure it's going to go 5.
No, I think honestly, especially with how that one went, this feels like it was done after game 2, and depends on what NIP pull out next, but it feels like Na'Vi are in a different zone right now to have to deal with, and it's not even like that last game they were throwing it away. It's like, no, NIP wanted to play. Like, they want to win. It's just when Na'Vi is that far ahead of you, when they're playing this well, they are a different beast to try and tackle. It's very, very difficult. Only one team has beat Na'Vi in this kind of state, and it was Envy once on the world stage. That's kind of area you're looking at.
Gore, I'm going to throw you out onto a limb right now. Are Na'Vi the best team in Paladins right now?
Yes.
All right. There's
that was the easiest limb I've ever had to answer.
I don't know. I ask you to go out, but Gore answers it. 3-0 goes Na'Vi. Let's send it back to the desk and hear what they're thinking.
A little worried that we were going to send the fire department to get Gore out of the tree, get him down from the limb, but he seems to be pretty comfortable up there right now.
He just superhero landing out of the tree.
Yes, Na'Vi is the best. And when NIP is going to play the way they are right now, it looks like that could be the case.
Yeah, I don't know what this is, to be honest with you, because I think, you brought up a point of setting the precedent, right? Like, what is everyone's expectations, power ranking sort of things going to be going in MSI? Yes, seeding is locked, but in our hearts and in our minds, who are we most scared of? And doing something like this in a matchup like that kind of feels like save facey to me. Like, we're starting to lose, let's just troll and act like we weren't trying the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. It's cooler this way. It hurts a little bit less in that regard. I mean, Bonker's playing the Lex in this game. Bittner takes over that Torvald. Definitely not NIP's best showing here up against Na'Vi. On the other side, we were so kind of shocked by the Lex and all these selections by NIP. We didn't even talk about the fact that Na'Vi was only running one frontliner here in this game. Only the Inara, a bunch of damage, double blaster. I mean, this to me feels like a good test of experimentation. Do we think a composition like this can work in the right scenario? In this scenario, it did.
This is the closest thing Na'Vi get to trolling.
Yes.
You know what I mean? As white collar, blue chip as they are, this is cutting loose for
real
them.
Mad Lads.
Yeah.
If you will. I can't believe you've done this.
Also, before you load in a game, there's merit there, man, because of the way NIP plays. That's literally what it felt like they were so far ahead of the pack in the early half of the phase that they were literally like playing 4 DPS in scrims and just seeing like, dude, how far can we go until things stop working for us? So like there is a timeline where everybody played what they should have played. Diggy Dog plays his Torvald. Tenor gets probably on the Lex there. I don't know. We don't have any dedicated Lex players, so it's hard to say who would actually play that. But there was a timeline where I think NIP is not trolling with that comp.
Yeah, could be potentially there for them. For you guys at home, by the way, want to quickly remind you guys that Paladins and a bunch of good stuff is available on Discord. You've got Discord. It's 2019. Who doesn't? Can you believe that someone, one of my friends at home, didn't know what Discord was, and he like plays video games.
Yikes.
And I'm like, what is wrong with you? How did you get to 2019 without knowing what Discord is? Like, how do I even explain it?
I had a bunch of buddies or my cousin they're older, 29 to 34 range, and they're all still using their TeamSpeak server.
Yep.
Go down on us like twice a week. Still have to pay for it. I was like,
oh my god.
I'm like, listen, grandpas, can we just get into the present here a little bit? This is what everyone else is doing. It's what the kids are kind of on the block using these days, and we have to kind of up our stuff.
My dad teaches some college classes, and he knows what Discord is because he uses it instead of Skype at times. So
there you go.
He knows what's up. That's all I'm saying. So everyone, if you're not on the Discord train and getting your Paladin stuff there, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell NIP right now either. I mean, they're down 3-0 to Na'Vi. As you mentioned, doesn't seem like they're really going balls to the wall here. They're just trying to do whatever they can to get through this set and see what Navi's got to offer.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what the draft holds for us. And
do you think that those hats, like the brain sucker, yeah, the brain worms basically. Like I'm thinking Futurama-esque like brain suckers right there. I mean, maybe that's you got to get the brain slugs off of them.
I don't know, man. This is
where's NIP? Does NIP have a coach to come in there and rip all the hats off of them, and they'll wake up and be like,
they don't. They're
oh
self-coached.
my god. Well, they need a sixth man in there to rip the brain slugs off. That might be the call for them as we head to Timber Mill here for game number 4.
Oh my god, you're onto something. I mean, the penguin suit from Phoenix, right? He puts it on. He fishes out all those sea critters, all those parasites, puts them on NIP's brains before the set. And now Phoenix is just king of the sea.
So smart, man. Phoenix, really. I mean, you gotta, when it comes to MSI, you gotta be worried about that level of counterplay. That's my favorite one, by the way. If only because it goes over the headset, which are already comically large. This hat has to be massive in order to execute this.
The young Ray on Bonkers, it's starting to droop a little bit too. It's almost as if the Ray is, it is clearly connected to some emotional cortex in his brain because it's starting to droop as Bonker starts to get more down on himself in this set.
I'm trying to stay impartial up here, but Rays and I don't really get along that well anymore. I mean, ever since they took our boy Steve Irwin, I'm kind of angry at them.
Naturally, but sins of the father, right? You can't blame
I guess
can't blame them all.
You're right, and Steve wouldn't want me to be mad at Stingrays, Like, he would be upset if he heard that. Steve would be all about the Stingray was just doing its thing. So you're right. I apologize, all Stingrays. Eevee, the first selection here for Na'Vi. They banned away a couple tanks. I mean, everyone banned away the tanks at this point. Ashe still open, though. That's kind of the next off tank that you would expect to come off the board.
Right.
A little surprised that Na'Vi don't go with it, but they've been prioritizing damage all day.
Yeah, Timbermill is unique for a lot of reasons, but I think most notably the just complete reprioritization of certain characters. Snipers and flankers, the characters very good against snipers, are more of a conversation piece here in the draft, especially early on. Tanks, it's good to have good ones, yes, but I think this game is more often than not decided by what is commanding the other 90% of the relevant point area.
Genos is going to be locked in by NIP. They banned that away from Na'Vi last game right away, so maybe they can look for something along the lines of what Na'Vi had with that Genos composition, though might not work quite as well here on Timber Mill. But Genos and something like Kinessa could be pretty strong here. I mean, you've got that long range already. You give her that little bit of damage boost, and those shots are going to hit that much harder.
Absolutely, and now NIP have to maybe start showing some cards a little bit. Or is that Ashe still open? It's a high priority off tank for Mr. Diggy Dog today, who's played a wide variety of stuff, but still has a smile on his face. I think NIP still appear to be in good spirits, and Just kind of comes down to whether or not they have decided to kind of let their foot off the gas in this one.
Yeah, and let the brain slugs kind of take over for them in this game. What are there a lot of champions that have like fish skins, like aquatic themed skins?
Well, we have a lot of beach summery skins coming out right now. I don't know if that necessarily.
Appropriate timing.
I don't know if that necessarily scratches that same itch. We have Grok Lobster, which is literally like what you're seeing here in NIP. It's basically that. He's essentially wearing like a lobster hat. I think Genos has something similar to that. Like there's a couple of very brain sluggy head accessory. There was a time where there was a parts and pieces system for your cosmetic. You would be able to customize like your head, body, weapon, like all types of stuff. And those lobster hats, the brain slugs, were just too good of a relic of the past to get rid of.
Sure.
So they are now a technically full-fledged skin.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe that's the way NIP is going to go. They already have the Genos, so it's an option for them, I suppose.
They
go Genos.
That would be
right
something.
Away.
There's another one. I think it's Damba just has a cactus. His head is a cactus.
Okay.
He's not even wearing the hat because he's voodooed up, masked out. But in terms of aquatic, I mean, Makoa is the closest he gets, just I think at base.
Yeah.
Being a literal sea creature.
Yeah, he's a turtle, so I guess that's the way it kind of goes in this spot. Just waiting a little bit, couple of technical difficulties, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. We'll be right back to the picks and bans, resuming in just a moment. Players going through this first part again, but will be the same up until now, I believe. I mean, Na'Vi, you're looking across the way. You're probably pretty amped up for this setup against NIP.
Yeah.
They come out and Lex you in Game 3. How do you respond, personally?
I think you're feeling Lexcellent right now. And Na'Vi, somebody was going into their booth right as we were coming in there, and they were still amped about that win nonetheless, because until they got in a game of probably Saw Bonker on the Lex, I think even they were probably like, this is again not something super wild that they are running here. This is something that we do need to beat. I really liked it. It was almost, you're right, overshadowed by the fact that NIP ran such wacky stuff, but that 3 DPS from Na'Vi is relatively uncommon.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering, we saw a couple of times yesterday in their sets that they really didn't look like themselves, like they were trying to break away from their very traditional style. And I wonder if this is more evidence that they may be looking to have that at least up their sleeve for if things get dire.
Yeah, it could be the case, and this is the right time to do it, right? I mean, it's just before MSI. This is their last regular season game before that playoff at the Midseason Invitational. Why not try and experiment and go away from that we Na'Vi, we on point sort of like mentality that they seem to have?
It's kind of interesting because everybody's kind of sitting around watching the set again. It's not changing anything at this point. There's not going to be many of those tiebreakers anymore. And Na'Vi had to get like 0-4 today. Obviously, it might be the other way around
here
against NIP. But this is setting our precedent a little bit for going into the MSI, what we expect from Na'Vi. And if everybody's sort of like looking around and realizing that Na'Vi might be the biggest threat in the league now, that's to me a problem for NIP.
Yeah, could be the case. Or, I mean, is this a moment where NIP, if they kind of take a back seat in the spotlight, not everyone's worried about Na'Vi all of a sudden, maybe they forget just how good NIP was during the first phase?
A lot of people love to be that, second, third place, no real pressure on us.
Right.
Nobody has us under their microscope right now, breaking down every little thing we do or say. And NIP, at least on the onset, were that. And part of it was just, this has been such a whirlwind of a season. A lot of people moving, travel issues.
Sure.
Now that things are starting to settle, the dust is starting to settle. Even up until Atlas Amani, you could say that things were starting to stabilize a little bit, and then you just inject 2 very viable first pick, first ban worthy characters. That was like even more catalyst to just reshake up the meta. And in that very chaotic environment, that's where I think NIP was finding a lot of their success. But every way that I've broken down Na'Vi to you is about stability, is about going slow, methodical.
Sure.
All that type of stuff is something that's going to benefit them.
Phoenix looking like the coach in this moment. He's got a notebook, standing up, coach headset.
I wonder if they just tag Mike in. Mike the manager.
So?
Mike the bike.
I mean, he was killing it last week, right? That's that was the word on the street, at least. I wasn't able to watch the games, but it seemed like everyone was pretty excited about his performance.
Oh, well, I was strong. I hope this isn't it's if you got a sub, why can't he sub in? Why can't he do his job? Guys, spam the bike for Mike at this point. We got to you never know when we'll give it another chance.
It's true.
To praise Mike. And, hell of a talent I think, in the gaming space. Absolutely has the aim of, I would say, even rivaling that of Dolson.
Wow, that's impressive stuff too, because Dolson is an absolute animal on the mouse and keyboard, no doubt about that. What about what's his play style like? What did Mike play when he was subbing in?
So he played a lot of Furia, right?
Okay.
So I think he comes from a Counter-Strike background, so he needed something hit scam, but at the end of the day, he's a manager, right? He's there to support the boys. He's there to pick them up when they're feeling down. And even going so far as to crack a smirk. Not a smile, but a smirk on Mutu, who is kind of like a Terminator, if you wanna draw pop culture reference.
Sure. He's kind of like a murdering machine. We're like, okay.
Expressionless
Am I
murder.
safe? Like, they're really pretty close to where we are right now.
We don't. We try to just kind of let him do his thing and not piss him off.
Yeah, I'll be sure. Looking great today, Mutu. Keep it up. You're doing a good job. Genos, Kinessa will be the two selections here as we are resuming picks and bans. Sorry for that delay, folks, but Genos, Kinessa, as I mentioned, just good outright burst damage coming out of a sniper.
For sure, and a lot of this comes down to just what you like, what did you prefer. We saw a lot of these fights coming out yesterday on Timbermill. Rock Monkey looking very, very good on the Kinessa. I think Tenor has prowess on both snipers, and at the end of the day, both of them are so close. They're a sniper, man. You hit the shot, that's pretty much the gameplay loop. That's what you want to be looking to do. Leon will see some play as well. Very, very good. With the way that she's played, you know, that presence, that wind-up, pow, crack shot that she's got across the map, it scales up to exactly the base damage of Kinessa and Strix. So she really does transition well into longer ranges, but can still power mid-range and succeed in that right as well.
So no Ashe off the board yet still. I mean, NIP could go to it here for Diggy Dog, should they so choose. Phoenix back in the seat, by the way. You can still spam your bikes for Mike if you want to. I mean, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not a cop, so you can do what you want. I'm not there to police it. That's Bayshore's job. He's the police, I'm assuming, in this scenario.
But we look the other way.
We look the other way
for Mike.
That's right. We sure do. We sure do. There he is, doing his best, I assume. I don't know what he's...
AirPods in.
AirPods in. I mean, he's flexing on us like this. I don't know.
He's off comms, basically saying, this one's over. I don't even need to be. I've done my job.
I sat in the seat, warmed it up for Phoenix, and now he's ready to go.
Getting on with my day. Two more DPS. One locked, one hovered at the moment, Maeve. All of this. 3 DPS comps were, you know, at their core driven by Genos. Could be a quad DPS if we're going to go all the way down the rabbit hole. This is not something we have not seen from NIP again. It's a hard team to know when they're trolling because they are very, very wild in the amount of things that they can pick and run and win with.
Ooh, Buck here for Na'Vi. Another one tank composition for them. Triple DPS with Eevee, Leon, and Buck. Great. I mean, you were talking about how flankers and divers are really, really important on this map. And Buck can certainly do that. NIP do finalize the no frontline composition. But they got the pit.
They have the 4 DPS. I was very surprised to not see it on Jaguar Falls, but that was what it was. We won't talk about that too much more.
Sure.
Again, 3 DPS has been a very, very viable strat. And, you know, Tenor was a part of this old Fnatic roster that was dominant with it, so that's why I think Phoenix, he had to learn how to play some DPS, and that's what he's going to do here.
Man, it's gonna be fun to see how this NLP comp can get it done here if they can in game number 4. Let's throw it to the casters. It's Gormizer and the first member of the Skillshot Hall of Fame, Dave Olsen.
He's the first member of the DK crew.
What is going on, Gore? We have triple DPS against quad DPS. We have 7 DPS.
You got 7 DPS, and I'm excited to see Kinessa.
Nope, arms crossed. Arms crossed like all the Na'Vi guys. There's.
My name's Dave, and I'm grumpy.
That was unreal.
Sorry, I'm in a mood
that
right
was
now.
So that was so spot on. You know what? They have on the NIP side. They have the number of DPS champions as games Na'Vi are gonna win.
Hey, got him. I'm actually excited for this, only because
it is exciting. I mean.
Well, I want to see, in theory, how Buck can do.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a good, like, maybe proving grounds. And admittedly, like, so the Lex on Bunker, you can throw that out and say that's a troll. I'd probably agree with you. But you can argue that it's not, right? This quad DPS is something they have tried in the past. This is something they have done in actual games. Like, this is the best way to word it, where things have been very serious for them.
Against Envy. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like Lazy, I'm assuming it's Lazy on the Inara, is going to be sad because he has 4. He's the only tank really in this game. I mean, Buck's a little bit of a solo runner in that regard, but first 2 kills coming up red here, and it is Lazy. Too many eyes on him there. You're going to plant him on the point this game and just hope that he can survive the onslaught of damage. You got the long range, Kanessa and Cassie to worry about. The dive of a Pip and a Maeve. I mean, on paper, there's a lot to look at if you're Natus Vincere.
No joke. And I said this the last time they played it here, but this is something I have heard NIP talk about. Literally any time Timbermill gets mentioned, like the first words out of their mouth are quad DPS. Like 10 times out of 10, that's all you're going to hear. The biggest downside is what you're going to see, which is the same thing that happened against Envy. If Lazy is alive, they match and pass in terms of capture percentage.
Yeah.
If Lazy is dead, then you lose the fight because there's 4 DPS that are barreling down your DPS.
Gore, they just cannot keep up with the damage right now. Ninjas and Pyjamas, they blew up Lazy, who was on the point. And then Natus Vincere have not been able to step foot out of their base since then. What a treat. 7 DPSs for us here. But NIP, they have, 4 greater than 3, Gore. 4 DPS, maybe greater than 3 DPS in this case.
You know, it's basic math, Dave.
You're right. I mean,
they have 1 support versus 1 support. Those are equal. But 4 over 3, like, when I hold it up on my fingers, one hand is a little bigger than the other.
Honestly, I'm just sad if I'm Lazy right now. He's the one person who didn't get to get in on, like, the cheesy action. He's like, nope, you're still playing Inara.
You know who I feel the worst for?
Who's that?
Mike, who is sitting 2 rooms down from us in the coach's room instead of back there getting his own bike, ready to be able to be empowered.
And rest assured, chat, he has chat open. So anything that you were saying to him, he was reading. So he reads the hype and he feels the hype, and he rode by on his bike right after that. That's a double kill from Alex to keep this one moving. All 5 members streaked out for NIP right now. Again, Lazy's just going to get void gripped and blown up, I feel like, this entire game. There's just too much damage, too much control from the quad DPS.
Yeah, as an actual serious note, this is something like this is, I want to say the last time against Envy was the concept coming into fruition and seeing if it could work. And there were moments where quad DPS was okay, moments where quad DPS didn't work for them there, right? They weren't able to melt the front line as much, so because of that, they weren't able to capture any points. This time around, Lazy's getting bullied. Like, Lazy is just not allowed to be in the game. You can see the net worth all in favor of NIP. That's going to be mainly point capture. I'd love to see if we actually can find it.
That's a category Lazy's dealing in. There it is.
And there it is. 23 seconds. Lazy has been able to stand on, and this is a man who doesn't leave the point. So I would argue most of his life has been spent running from base to point, from base to point.
They haven't got a single kill.
It's unfortunate.
0 kills for Natus Vincere up to this point. Damage dealt. Top 3 are red. Yeah, it's a big old oof. 5,000. Down towards the bottom is the Buck. The 8, 7, 13, 9, and 9 are all their current streaks. 0 deaths for the red side. Maybe a deathless game if things continue the same way. Lazy's going to take up his point on the point yet again, but already down to about half health. You're hoping that the Damba can mitigate a lot of the damage that's coming through. Hasn't worked out up to this point. The Midnight could start things off for NIP here. He's got some juicy targets down around the back. He has a Pip with him as well. The Evil Mojo on the creatives is going to buy a kill. The Buck, though, that's a trade he might win. When you get close range, you got to be careful. But when you have 2 members, Lazy and Phoenix, though, Lazy stays alive and not only finds his first kill of the game, but he's still on the point now. 42%. Well, there's it. 42%.
And now they're being able to kind of stand through. And again, this is what happens when you don't get to melt Lazy the entire time. Like, he just gets to stand on the point. He has comeback mechanic as well. That Seismic Crash not going to connect, but there is going to be a kill from Spunky. The through time and space was a little too late to find its kill, but it doesn't stop at least one support putting his name on the board.
That's right. Spunky, they have 3 DPSs on their side, but Spunky, he might make 4. He's going to give some healing on over to creatives, going toe-to-toe with Bonker on the Cassie off to the side. He gets a good blast shot off there.
This is the most interactive gameplay, like Spunky's game face, but it's just like he's just hitting right-click on cooldown.
Listen, why not? He's doing it well. He hits right-click on cooldown better than anyone else. Some kills start to roll here. Mutu and Phoenix started off. Bittner and Bonker staring down their sights at creatives, who gets absolutely crushed right on out of the ice block. Lazy's still on the point. Bittner's going to have to poke around, but Phoenix, he's going to see to it that they don't. Point number 1 for Natus Vincere.
And normally the argument is, and this I almost remember this happening with Indy. I remember this conversation. That quad DPS, especially with items coming online, in this case, you're going to be looking for Cauterize a little more often to stop Maldamba from healing the Inara, and to stop Buck from healing himself, to stop Eevee from feeling as comfortable in her Ice Block and cleansing herself from things. You're going to almost always have some sort of anti-heal flying at you. But you have to get the items online. They have the credits to be able to do so. They're going to get the kills to be able to get the credits to be able to do so. But it doesn't stop them as much. Like, a lot of it does come down to execution, and the biggest thing, again, to me, is how what's Lazy's uptime when it comes through. Like, every single round, what his uptime is going to determine if Na'Vi win the fight or if NIP win the fight.
Well, NIP are going to hope to win this one, bringing out the Midnight. Phoenix has no idea where to go. He doesn't know where anything is. All darts out there. Bittner and Alex have 1 and 2. Creative still alive in the back line, though, and that's going to clean up the Cassie on the side of NIP. Blinks forward here. A little bit of healing on his side. Things seem to have stabilized. Only 3 kills total in that fight. 2 for red, 1 for blue. Good answer back from Natus Vincere. Still 1 minute and 10 seconds left. Payload pretty stationary at the moment. Bittner, you'd think on paper he'd be able just to free shoot from the back line this entire game, because there's just too much going on from the rest of his team. And he's been okay. I mean, he hasn't blown me out of the water, but certainly has probably felt comfortable up to this point. Still 3 streaks on the NIP side, 5, 5, and 5 to round things off. First kill in this re-engage, though, that goes to Bonker.
Just trying to find some shots. Creative's unfortunately going to get locked down there. Spunky finds 1 kill. At this point, I think Spunky might be finding more kills than his DPS with how much he's putting on the board. But it is the fact that, you know, that's where all the damage, like, cooldowns are being dumped into killing Phoenix, into killing Creatives, into killing Mutu, which leaves kind of Spunky and Lazy here open to kind of reap the benefits afterward.
And they're still alive. Oh, that's a nice shot. He goes around Lazy, hits Spunky, and Lazy's still alive. You leave him up, he's going to be able to do some damage. 8 seconds is all that's left. Overtime will begin before this round ends, unless Natus Vincere get completely blown up here. Does not look like that's going to happen. The wall up mitigates some damage. Payload keeps rolling right on through. You're going to have to crest this hill here if you want to get this one in. Overtime, Lazy needs to get up and get forward, but there's too much damage. You have quad DPS all staring you down. Bittner with the snipe, Alex with the assassinate. Only 3 members left of Natus Vincere. Buck maybe getting something done. Mutu doesn't do it, and 3 points over to red.
I mean, this is, and if anything, this is a testament to what I was saying last game, where it's like, NIP, we're trying something very drastically different. They're trying something drastically different here. Yeah. One works pretty well for him. One works worse than anything I think I've seen in a while. Like, Lex is, there's still, you got to have a lot of faith to put your neck on the line for Lex. And they put it out there.
It's a 0% win right now.
Yeah.
0 for 0.
But it's not a 0% pick rate, and that's better than nothing. He'll probably.
You know, it actually still might be, because we round down.
There's so many games.
Remember, Moji was still at 0 when she was picked up yesterday. So I think technically you might be at a 0% pick rate.
It's the year of the flank, Dave. It's coming around.
You know, it seems that
way. The Paladins' New Year just happens to be yesterday.
That's
June
right.
20th,
Yeah,
for some reason.
It was the shift. It was the shift. Ooh, that could be a good through time and space. Dodges out of it is Bonker, and that's the Bittner, honestly. I mean, if you want to actually take a deep dive into what's going on, you'd think Bittner would be free and clear. Great evil mojo on the side of NIP. More interestingly, maybe, is like you get the pimp on your side. It's not Bittner, it's Diggy Dog. And it's Bittner on the Kinessa. He can play everything so well. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised he's flexing onto the Kinessa in this case. That's a clean 1, 2, 3, 4 for NIP. Natus Vincere nowhere in range to contest.
I think the one who has the most chance of getting back is going to be Mutu. Unfortunately, that 2300 does not last long in this kind of game. Creatives goes down, so they don't even have him to touch for overtime. And Lazy's going to be back, but Lazy's, again, kind of dangled out as bait. He is the one that is just alone on the point, no support, no anything behind him.
Well, Bonker shuts that one down very quickly. Mutu and Lazy combining. Lazy trying to stay alive, but there's just so much damage. He's doing actually a pretty good job of it. The healing from Damba, he actually turns the kill around onto Bonker. Now he has Bittner to worry about, and the daggers from Alex are just too much to weather the storm. 96%. But Natus Vincere, they've regained control of this one. NIP were looking poised to win, But Natus Vincere, they find a couple kills and find themselves back on the point.
Regain control, and they have comeback mechanics. 78% now for them. You're going to see that jump up by 4% every tick. And unless something big comes out, I mean, there's no ults on the side of NIP. They're going to need something huge in terms of play to get rid of this Inara. And they're finding kills. If Diggy goes down, I don't know if they're going to have the chance.
Well, he had to leap in to try to get a touch, and he did, but he traded out his life for it. Bird is so low here, and Creatives knows it. Phoenix starting to fire away on this Leon. A double kill for him. Bittner still alive in the high ground. 3 for Phoenix. And 2 for Natus Vincere.
And just being able to find that, like, I'm going to go ahead and be honest. Phoenix, a lot of the reason he's dying at the initial engagement is because he's trying to take these open range fights against this Ganessa, or open range fights against somebody, right? There, he starts out undercover. He's just throwing damage onto the point. He's moving around to find a different angle to keep that damage on the point. That's the one time I think I've seen him perfectly line up open 1v1 against the Ganessa, and he comes out on top. And it wasn't even the 1v1. Creatives came up to help a little, too.
Creatives been making life hard for NIP. In this case, it's Bittner who has the hard road of things. The kill started off red. 1, 2, 3, 4, all blue. Mutu with a double on the buck. Gets stolen away from the triple. Lazy as well coming to play. This one goes in. We're looking at 3-3 here. They forgot the too much action going on.
I left the payload behind.
Yeah, right. I have to go get the payload. Finally moving forward, Phoenix is going to try to make his home behind this cover here.
This is the
comes through as well.
Anti-Kinessa positioning.
Yeah, right.
If I stand behind a wall, you can't shoot. And that's exactly where he's going to be. You notice he's hanging around that right side because Bittner has the perfect line of sight down on them. But now they've gotten around here, you can actually move up for it and get aggressive.
Yeah, NIP, they're down around to the right now. Phoenix is free and clear to move forward. He's got to be careful here. You got to focus your shots initially. Double kill from Phoenix. Enlightenment is good. And we got a 3-3. Natus Vincere, they fight back. They're 1 point away from taking the set 4-0.
Biggest downsides.
All right, hit
They
me.
just used a lot of ults at the very end or towards the end of the push. In the last half of that round, they are down a good chunk. I didn't see all of what NIP have available, but I know it's going to be enough to make Na'Vi feel very uncomfortable. At least at the beginning. The good news for both teams, if you're NIP, it means you get a second chance, is that there's no comeback mechanic enabled for anybody. So you have at least a level playing field coming into it, but you are going to have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 ults available for you. You can maybe pull Scout away and say that it's not going to be as effective. It's good for the CC immunity in this case, and maybe a little bit of the vision. Bird's going to be hit or miss. Haven't seen too many connect. Evil Mojo, going to absolutely decimate them. Midnight is going to cause a lot of trouble.
You got to be careful. You need to be able to live through these ultimates. Actually using the wall bounces very well. We talked to Bittner, it was, about how you can, I think, reset or maintain your momentum on the waitlist if you're able to shoot the wall. It's a very finicky mechanic. I'm actually glad we kind of caught that. If you shoot the wall while you're still jumping, you can actually maintain momentum of the waitlist just a little bit longer. So a small little fun mechanic to watch here from Diggy Dog. It is down to a 3-3, 24% already for Natus Vincere. They're going to be fighting from the point in this one. No ultimates come flying just as of yet, but Seismic crashes first. Alex is so low here. There's the Buck Wild, buy some damage, but the Midnight counters a lot of it out. Alex could get aggressive, but it looks like it's just a counter from the initial engage that Natus Vincere were throwing.
I don't think I've ever seen a Buck Wild running backwards before, so that's going to be a first for me, but it's still going to be 2 big kills there for Na'Vi. Mutu going to be able to find Alex. Alex, though, does get rid of Spunky, which is going to cause a lot more trouble, but a nice Enlightenment gets a return kill.
Wait, it was Mutu.
And that's the downside of NIP's draft. If you start losing, you lose hard.
Gore, that might be it. Mutu could put a zone in here. Bonker's going to roll through time and space, though. That picks off Phoenix. It's a 1-for-1 to start off. The dash in from Mutu. Heroic Leap is good for a double. The Buck looking a lot better than it did yesterday on the side of Natus Vincere. They win this one. They win the game. Overtime's going to get reset, but now all you have are some squishy backliners that have to get in and get a touch. It's up to Bird. He has no health. He has no life. And Ninjas in Pyjamas, they have no wins. Natus Vincere looking poised to take this one 4-0.
Finding themselves a 4-3 on Timbermill.
I don't think they can believe it.
Phoenix is laughing.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
As it comes through. I think everyone on Na'Vi is feeling pretty comfortable about that. I don't think anyone on NIP is going to be feeling bad about it. No. Everyone leaving. I mean, it's a double whammy, right?
At the end of the day.
It's the end of the split. It's a Friday.
Yeah.
These guys are, and these guys are good friends. Everybody's happy.
That's very hard to read too much into. Honestly, like games 1 and 2.
Admittedly, NIP, that's probably like the best thing they could have done. No one knows what they're going to run in MSI because they just played some of the most important games of their lives. They played Lex.
If you really want to look into it, yeah, now nobody, because there's, well, I don't want to say there's no way, but quad DPS, Lex, I mean, they're not showing anything. I mean, at the end of the day, they only have 2 losses. They had first seed locked up, I think, a week or 2 ago. The win does go 4-0 to Na'Vi. A little bit of gamesmanship towards the end. You know, you have the animal hats on the head of NIP. I'm sure they'll be feeling good regardless. Still first seed going into MSI. That's the last we'll see of either of these two teams prior to MSI. Let's send it up to the desk, hear what they thought about that.
Thanks, guys. An easy 4-0, frankly, for Na'Vi in this set. I mean, it looked for a minute there like NIP was going to be able to extend it and get a game win, but then a good defense from Na'Vi, and then it turns out that having someone who's like really good at standing on the point and staying alive helps you stay on the point and stay alive.
Yeah. I mean, no matter how you slice it, I think that's just objectively true, and maybe Na'Vi are really onto something with this. With this front line, it's been so good for them, so consistent, and the 4 bulldozers coming out, that's interesting. Being able to take down that wall, Mr. Gorbachev, that's a big part of that NIP strat is, you know, we didn't have the front line. Alex, I think, still did great on the Maeve. Bonker still did great on the Cassie. Diggy Dog playing Pip, Tenor on the Kinessa. Very cool. In terms of hiding strats, though, that's, I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about, like, this. It just feels sort of like a cover-up, almost like an excuse.
Sure.
Like, I don't know. There's a feeling I can't shake of, like, these guys, after losing the first 2, after trying and realizing that you maybe just kind of throwing in the towel.
Yeah, I mean, NIP, their drafts, the first 2 games seem to be pretty standard, I would say. I mean, nothing jumped off the page to me. Those went 4-2, 4-1 in Navi's favor. So really, I mean, not even. I mean, they were close, but not 4-3 victories or anything like that. Na'Vi was solidly in control even before these oddball comps started coming out.
Yeah, and again, here on Timber Mill, I think that's just a really great show of resiliency. And what Na'Vi do so well is that they bet on these very safe strategies. They focus on the objective. And that's the type of stuff that gets them the win of the day. It's not like oftentimes super over the top, flashy pocket strats, things like that. They really are just like the consistency. They're just that consistent bet that you always know is going to show up. Everyone's going to kind of do their thing, and they're going to get some wins.
Smooth peanut butter, consistency.
There it is.
Throughout. That's what it's all about. Standings here as Ninjas in Pyjamas do finish their first phase at 12-2. A very respectable plus 30 in the plus minus. Na'Vi, they get to double digits in the win column in their first phase, 10-4. For them, those 2 teams are all said and done. In fact, everybody all said and done except for 5-6. Virtus Pro and Kanga Esports. Kanga have a chance to usurp VP for that 5th seed.
Got to win this set if they want to grab the 5th seed, and they have to win it, I think, 4-2. Just getting that 1+ in the column would be tying them, and I think that would force like tie-break scenarios. So depending on how this one goes, it could be a very, very interesting day.
I mean, that's what you hope for, right? When you make the schedule at the very beginning of the year, that your final day of the phase still has some serious implications for the midseason invitational. And of course, that's what we have today. That is going to be our next set. But Na'Vi, I mean, do you get momentum from a win like this?
I think so. I think, like we said, after game 3, they sounded amped. Like, still very excited to win that game that looked very, very troll to us on the desk. But
sure.
Na'Vi very happy, I think, to get out of here cleanly.
Well, you don't have to take Nick's word for it. We've got some of the members of Na'Vi standing by so we can see how they're feeling after their win over NIP.
Well, hey guys, a nice 4-0. You get to sit back in the winner's chair. A nice way to end the split going into MSI. And I have one question after today, and it's just, how does it feel to have been the only team to play against Lex?
Feels good.
Lazy smile says it all.
It feels good because we had both Poppy Bomb and Disengage, and he was running the Combat Slide talent where he does like damage reduction, CC immunity. But he was like flying, even like got him off the map once. But you cannot dash in the mid-air as Lex, so it was basically free.
Also, just to add, I don't think they realized that we would actually go for triple DPS as well. So that kind of ruined it for them because we had a Jokers just flying all over the place who could just do everything.
Flex.
Well, you went triple DPS again the next game on Timber Mill. They notably went quad DPS. Is that something you maybe expected them to bring out on Timber Mill? Was that something you prepared for?
Yeah, as soon as they picked Timber Mill, we said it's probably going to be quad DPS. So we took at least like some long-range damage in a flanker way with picking Eevee and Leanne early and then getting the strongest point tank in that situation. So we had point pressure because the best way to deal with quad DPS on the map is by having at least some point pressure. Otherwise, it's just constant fighting, and the point fights last for 3 minutes. And this way, they're forced to do something and show their hand. And we expected it.
So, barring the technical issues in Game 1, like Frozen Guard, Stone Keep, it was really impressive to see how much you guys have, I guess, like grown as a team. Like, this feels like the same Na'Vi that won a world championship, right? This is like back to that level of play to be able to come through. And like, was there a moment when you realized in the set that it was going to be a 4-0, or did you think it was still going to go longer?
The first map, there was some remakes going in, and like we won the first point, we were snowballing. And then they had to remake, and they won the first point, and we kind of got behind there. So we had some mental, like we had to like focus on our mentality.
It's mostly credits in that situation.
Yeah, it's credits, but still mentality. Like you knew you were like that far ahead in the previous one, and then you had to start over, and then you also lost the first point. But we sorted out, and then after that, there was like no issues.
So right before Timber Mill, Mike came in, and we were wondering whether or not like someone was going to come up with some excuse. Was there any hint of Mike actually playing today, or was it just playing around?
Well, we put him on my chair because I've been acting as a coach for this team ever since I joined. So it was like, yeah, might as well take the coach position and put Mike in.
Put Mike in. Well, hey, congratulations again on your 4-0, guys. It was a very convincing one to see today. A great way to go into MSI. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Brought to you by Evil Mojo, Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Respawn, Steel Series, Alienware, and Skillshot.